Each day, John Michael Chambers delivers his JMC War Reports, keeping you informed, empowered, and connected. These reports are brief and range typically from 3 to 7 minutes, providing updates on this war and just what you need to know as the golden age is upon us. Informative, insightful, and inspiring. Get and stay grounded. Subscribe for free and join JMC for his daily war reports at jmcbroadcasting.com. Our victory is assured, and we shall restore this republic and set humanity on a much-needed course correction. Follow John's daily war reports right here at jmcbroadcasting.com.
Thursday, July 30th, 2026. Hello, I am John Michael Chambers, and welcome to this special broadcast, All Things Crypto, with Will Barney, Rob Cunningham, and first-time guest here at JMC Broadcasting. Welcome, Mel Carmine. All right, a couple of quick announcements before we get into the heart of the matter. Scott McKay is joining us in our Patriot Q&A Power Hour on August 27th at 8 p.m. Eastern. Scott will be live with me, live on screen, for one solid hour with the sole purpose of answering your questions. So come join us. We just finished Sheila Home last week. We've had Rob Cunningham. We've had Mike King and Derek Johnson, Juan Savin. Each month we bring on a different power source, to answer your questions live in our private Zoom room. How do you register? Go to jmcbroadcasting.com, click on Premium Portal, see if this is a fit for you. If it is, we very much look forward to seeing you there with our good friend, Patriot Street Fighter, Scott McKay. Now, also along the lines of announcements, we've got Juan Savin and his Chief of Staff, retired Lieutenant Colonel Matt Meck, back in Vegas, back at the Ahern Hotel, September 10th through 13th. The Fraud Fighter Summit was a huge success in terms of getting the information out there. It was sold out. I would expect this to be sold out as well. Go to stormsummit.us. Take a look at the power panel there. This summit addresses different subjects than the other one. Very, very important. In fact, Juan Savin's here in my neck of the woods right now in Southeast Asia, and I'll be sitting down with Juan my Sunday and Monday in Bangkok. Thank you, Juan, for putting these together. We will be streaming it live. I'm pretty certain we've got that locked up right now. So stay tuned for official announcements, but we should be streaming it live for those of you around the world and around the country who cannot make it to Las Vegas. Next image. Off-World with JMC is, we'll be doing our third monthly episode. We've got Dr. Sala back as guest, and we also have retired Lieutenant Colonel Tom Lennox joining us, and we're looking to bring Alex Collier back as well for that episode. So stay tuned. That's coming in the month of August now, Off-World with JMC. Also, newly launched premiere episode Friday. I don't have the date, but Friday, I guess that's the 31st at 6 p.m. Eastern, Fireside Chat with JMC, making sense of the times. This is something very different from our regular broadcasting with our military, intelligence, economic, healthcare, and off-world experts. This is just me having a conversation with you in a casual setting, giving my views and analysis of a lot of different things, not only the issues that we're dealing with, but some of the issues that we are dealing with in our fractionalized divisions within our movement to try and bring us all together and keep our eye on the mountain. So Fireside Chat with JMC Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern. This will be a monthly broadcast as well. So let's begin. Will Barney brings over 19 years of experience in the banking sector, where he has developed a strong specialization in structuring funding for commercial projects on a global scale. Many of you know Will, a regular at our Global Financial Reset show. You can learn more about Will by visiting jmcbroadcasting.com. Click on contributors on the nav bar. You'll see Will's face, his biography, and a link to his website, which is www.enochgs.com. Also joining us today, another regular at JMC Broadcasting, is Captain Rob Cunningham. He is the founder of KUWL, a passion project launched in December of 2022, inspired by curiosity, a thirst for truth, and a commitment to challenging false narratives. KUWL stands for Knowledge, Understanding, Wisdom, and Life, reflecting his mission to share insights and value through research, analysis, interviews, education, and commentary. I also throw in documentary. He's featured in a documentary that perhaps he'll mention in the broadcast. Rob's personal background includes a business degree in management information systems, active duty in the U.S. Air Force as an instructor pilot with combat experience, and a top secret security clearance. He spent 2 years as a major airline pilot before being furloughed, followed by 20 years in investment and mortgage banking, and over 20 years owning and supporting a national leadership and sales development company. He's the most valued contributor to JMC Broadcasting. And the reason I'm doing a bit of introductions for each of our guests beyond just a sentence or two is because we have a lot of new people coming aboard by the day to JMC Broadcasting. And thank you for being here. Thank you for following us. Rob Cunningham is a powerhouse, and we're honored to have him here. Mel Carmine, first-time guest at JMC Broadcasting, highly recommended to us, a popular podcaster and entrepreneur with a passion for the American dream. For the past several years, Mel has been dedicated to educating everyday people about the transformative potential of the quantum financial system. Such a huge and important subject, folks. Digital assets such as cryptocurrency and XRP. From running a successful business to amassing an international audience of well over 100,000 followers, Mel's journey from Sicily to South Beach reflects his resilience and commitment to improving lives. He runs the Staying Alive Wellness Center, which we'll talk about later in the broadcast, helping people improve their well-being with his e-system. Through his podcast, Mel Carmine continues to inspire and empower others to take control of their health and finances. That being said, welcome our panel. Thank you all very much for being here on this educational special broadcast on cryptocurrency. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming aboard. I'm going to put a disclaimer out there to keep the disclaimer world happy. The information provided by me and my guests is for educational purposes only, and it's not to be considered as specific investment, tax, nor legal advice. You, the listener, the viewer, are encouraged to do your own research and consult your financial, legal, and tax professionals. That aside, this is a special broadcast, not fitting into our normal formatting of our structured niche programming, but very important. I'm basically answering the call to a lot of folks that are saying, what is crypto? Speak English to us. So forth and so on, break it down. And that's exactly what we're going to do with our panel of guests here. One more announcement, and believe me, we're going to get into the crux of the matter with the guests in just a moment. Josh Reed, good friend of ours, been around for many years, was with us at American Media Periscope. If we have an image of the book, we can split screen it for a moment. Josh Reed contributed one of the chapters in my book, Global Financial Reset. There's an image of the book. You can find it on Amazon. I think it's 5-star rated. It's really a manual. It's a roll your sleeves up workbook. Josh Reed contributed a chapter on cryptocurrency and blockchain. Rather high level, but very good. I encourage you to pick up a copy of the book and read that chapter as well. Also referred to me by Rob Cunningham in a previous broadcast is put up on the screen, if you will, to my producer, nca.org. So you want to bookmark nca.org, and it's a good website with lots of information about crypto. It's a good resource, and I thank Rob for bringing that to my attention. And now we're going to move into Woody Allen. Yes, the controversial filmmaker, Woody Allen. Everything you always wanted to know about sex, but were afraid to ask. What does that have to do with this? Well, it's just having a little fun. Basically, folks, this broadcast might be titled Everything You Wanted to Know About Crypto, but perhaps were afraid to ask. And that being said, looks like my glasses are crooked. That'll bother me the entire episode. That looks much better. Welcome our panel. Let's get into the world of crypto. Thank you all for being here. We're going to start at the top of the panel, going from Rob Cunningham to Will Barney to Mel Carmine. What is crypto? Defined in its simplest, most fundamental way, and what is its purpose, Captain Rob?
Great question. Thank you for having me. It's great to see the panel. In essence, crypto is software. It's computer code. Okay, it's a mathematical accounting of value. It's if you think about from a scriptural standpoint, we're supposed to have an honest weights and measures type of money system where everybody measures everything equally. The laws are applied across the board the same way. Math is math, and math is true or false. A dishonest weights and measures is an abomination. So, what does crypto do? Crypto can be a computer representation of how many dollars are in circulation, what's the exact weight of gold, what's a transfer between me and you, what date and time did it happen, did legal title change, can that cryptographically, all of these things involved in commerce can be distilled to computer code. They can be lawful, they can be precise, they can be verifiable, they can be inspectable, and it can keep all parties involved in the transfer of value or property or contracts or agreement accountable and truthful, inspectable, under oath. So, in essence, it's just math. Crypto is math. Math is a science that is given to us by the lawgiver. The law is perfect. We can either make certain that the law and the math is perfect, or if we don't, we get a dishonest monetary system that puts us in debt slavery and all kinds of other problems occur because we cannot keep pace with what's true and what's false.
Thank you very much. That's definitely officially on record and so well spoken. I appreciate that, Rob. We'll move over to Will Barney. You want to fill in the blanks there? What is crypto and its purpose from your perspective as well, Will? Thanks for being here.
Well, in essence, what you're looking at is you're looking at a digital ledger. So, the old books of banking, they actually had paper ledgers originally, and you would mark your debits and your credits and your deposits right there on the ledger. A lot of people still use checkbooks, and they still write in their amounts that they spend so that they can keep track of it. But this allows us to keep track of that digitally and to create a record, and the record is permanent. So if you're talking about let's look at some typical chains that you might have out there, because you've got various different blockchains, and they all run on basically a ledger system. So each one of those is keeping track of all transactions within the chain and is keeping a record on that. Now you have various types of descriptions of what is an appropriate way to record a transaction, and we'll get into that probably later in the program when we start talking about ISO specifications. But basically what that means is because it's everyone gets an account on the ledger. If I want to move money from myself to you, John, it's really a debit from me and a credit to you. It's very simple. I don't have to pick up a block of gold and transport it via Loomis or something to your house. We can simply do a debit and a credit, and it's a permanent record. Everybody can see it. It's open and transparent. So crypto isn't, I think they call it crypto because the information is being sent cryptographically. So it's designed to not be hacked so that you can't interfere with the transaction. But once the transaction is done, it's now a permanent record. So you don't have to worry about that. So that's where the term crypto came from. It's really just a matter of safely transacting on a ledger, debits and credits between the two of us. And it goes very fast, obviously, in the digital world. Something that might take days to do in traditional banking sense, now we get done in seconds. And so it's going to be a new way of doing things. I don't think it's much different than, remember the old systems we had with telephone, where everybody had their landline phone and their analog system, and it would ring and you would answer it. Well, then we went to digital phones, and eventually we went to cell phones. Now, most people in their house don't even have a landline phone anymore. They would think you're crazy for having that because they have a cell phone that travels with them. It's much the same with this. You're going to have a digital wallet that travels with you, can live in your phone and your device and go wherever you need to go. So you can transact anywhere in the world at any given time, and all with the security that your phone is identifying you are the person that's operating it. And therefore you have safety and security in your financial transactions. Hope that's helpful.
Very, very helpful. Thank you. I want to follow up a bit on that, and thanks for the analogies on the telephones and so forth. I'll use an analogy myself. I remember myself personally. What was it? Maybe 30 years ago, when AOL came out. And Al Gore, quote unquote, invented the internet, and we, I said to myself, "Wow, people sit in front of a computer and put in their credit card information and banking and buy things. I'm never going to do that." Of course, look where we are today. And so, folks, doubt and fear are sort of emotional wavelengths we don't want to be in. And so my mission in this broadcast, and I can see it's going to be a great show from the first question with 2 out of 3 of the guests so far, we got a ways to go, is going to be very, very educational to blow out that doubt and fear. Because knowledge, all the old cliches, knowledge is power and applied knowledge is wisdom. And that's what our attempt here is, to provide some fundamental education. And believe me, we can perhaps do another episode a couple of months from now. This will be called Crypto for Dummies, or Crypto 101, and we'll do Crypto 201, or an advanced down the line. But very, very helpful. Thank you very much, Mel. Thanks for being here. How would you like to weigh in on what crypto is, and again, its purpose?
Well, I could tell you that once you understand cryptocurrency, it's like sending an email, and it's actually easier to understand than sex. I've been in a couple of sexual encounters where it was complicated compared to cryptocurrency. I can tell you, and it's not that difficult to understand. The reason why I believe that the politicians are afraid of it is because they understand the implications of really taking it to the next level when it comes to voting, and they realize that you can no longer finagle the bagel, because all the boxes, all the chains have to agree with one another in order for a vote to go through. And eventually, I believe that voting, not to get off subject, but sending money, like you said earlier, Barney, is like as easy as carrying your telephone. You're going to go to the ice cream shop and you're going to send them the money. It's going to happen. Boom, you put in, okay, the ice cream costs $10. You hit send and it goes. It happens as fast as an email, if not faster. It's like sending a text message, except you're sending digital value over the airwaves. Obviously the King Kong is going to be the one that is going to be XRP, because it has never made a mistake. It has already moved trillions of dollars in value. Michael Arrington moved $55 million about 9 years ago. And I could tell you emphatically that transaction is world record, is 1.8 seconds. It can fluctuate between 2 and 5 seconds, but that particular transaction was exactly 1.8 seconds. I actually have the video of that. I wish I had it queued up. I would love to show it. But needless to say, they moved $55 million, and that $55 million lands in exactly 1.8 seconds, and it costs 30 cents. That's got tremendous real value. And not to be able to make a mistake and be able to move that kind of cash flow that fast. And the beauty about the XRP, the digital asset XRP, is that it could be used over and over again. You could send it to Australia. From Australia, you could send it to Mexico. From Mexico, you could send it to Croatia. It doesn't matter. It will denominate and literally switch over so fast that it will make your head spin. I mean, look, we can't keep going down this horse and buggy paper system. At the end of the day, we need to go digital. It's here. Obviously, there's a lot of other things that are in play right now that, hopefully we'll get enough API to where we can continue to buy as many ice creams as we want and continue to go and entertain ourselves till the cows come home, and be able to still never run out of money, because we're now going to be yielding with X, with 6% API. That's tremendous when you come to think of that. The wealth transfer that's coming is so over the top that some of us are going to be worth a lot of money. and that 6% could mean more money than you could spend in a lifetime, literally.
Well, thank you, Mel. I took a few notes here. 1.8 seconds, 30 cents. There's a headline. And who doesn't
Tremendous.
want that? You know, I'm in Southeast Asia, and you know, we transfer money on occasion here, and and it doesn't take 1.8 seconds, and it's not costing me 30 cents. I'll leave it at that. It takes 2 or 3
Yeah.
days, and it's costing me $50. But anyway, good point. And you know, finagle the bagel. I
John,
like
remember
that.
start.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, remember the days of 1 + 3? Like you have a trade day, so trade day's your T, and then you always had
Yeah,
like 2 to 3
that's right.
days of settlement. Can you imagine?
That's right.
Basically T + 0.
Ooh.
This is this is dramatic when you look at how value is going to be moving around, particularly with stock market. You know, there's been a number of trades that were done in the range of $50 million, a settled trade of stock trade settled in seconds. I mean, this is unbelievable what we're seeing. And that's why you have SEC Chairman Paul Atkins saying, hey, within 24 months, all the market will be on chain, because you can't compete if you don't move to that. I mean, you're just not going to be able to. But that also brings up, you know, clarity and stuff we'll probably get into later.
We're going to get
Well,
to
Will,
that.
if I could,
I want.
let me piggyback on what Will was just saying for just a moment too, just to expand the audience's context here. Think about trillions of transactions occurring every single day around the world in 207 countries. Think about quantum computing can do 1 trillion calculations a second. Okay. Machines are going to trade with machines in micropayments. Maybe it's 8/1000ths of a penny for every Q. And you're going to have AI generated bots trading with other bots. And money is going to be moving in a micro transaction. But whether it's $55 million or $30 million or 3/100ths of a penny, it still has to be ledgered. Okay. So we're going to have a volume explosion, AI accelerated, machine to machine, bot to bot, person to person, entity to entity. Money is going to flow like water, and it's going to flow at such an astronomical pace that it has to be digital, it has to be transparent, and it moves so fast it either has to be mathematically correct or incorrect. If it's incorrect, it doesn't get ledgered, it doesn't go through. So the scope and scale of what's coming before us is a tsunami of volume and transactions beyond the scope and scale of anything humanity's ever known before. So,
Thank you, Rob. Mel, did you want to chime in?
Yeah, I wanted to chime in real quick. One thing I could tell you is that people make it more complicated than what it needs to be. I say dive in with both feet. Look, does it have a learning curve? I'd be lying to you if I told you it doesn't. It does. But you sound like you have a choice. You say, you know, guys, you go ahead without me. I'm going to stay here in the third dimensional world, and I'll maybe catch up with you at some later point. No, you don't have that luxury. You really don't. Okay. You're either going to join us or you're going to get left behind. You're going to get a universal basic income, and you're going to be a slave to the system and the artificial intelligence, and you're going to be a slave to the data centers that are coming, and you're going to have to roll up your sleeve at some point and get one of those things that we all opted out to get back in 2019 if you want your universal basic income to work out, especially if we don't have a trajectory of another Trump taking over. Hopefully it's Eric Trump or somebody like that. I hope it's not Vance. Vance should not advance because we'll have a tremendous problem if he does. I think even though I don't like politicians generally, not to get political here, but I would rather see Rubio. If I had a choice of Rubio or Vance, I'll take Rubio 10 times over Vance. But it's going to be very dangerous going forward based on who gets in, not just dangerous to the financial world, but dangerous to a lot of things. So, you know, I personally would love to get somebody that's very pro-crypto. I think that Eric Trump is primed for that. What do you guys think?
Well, we're veering off into politics.
That's another subject into politics.
another show.
briefly.
Yeah.
Eric Solid.
Yeah. Yeah, because
Just
this
one
panel
We're
has a
back
lot
on
to
to
say
real
about
crypto.
that.
about
Yeah. We're,
just one comment about
Yeah.
this crypto and how we're going to move value, because people need to realize that, Rob, you make a good point, and so do you, Mel, that we either adopt or we're left behind. But there's a lot of people are getting really concerned because there's propaganda that goes around out there about CBDC, and they're getting all caught up in this is going to be CBDC, and I'm going to be a slave to the banks or something. But it is not that.
Yeah.
And I think we need to clarify the fact that this is not CBDC, that there is a dramatic difference between an open market and what CBDC is, because dramatically different scenario.
yeah.
Thank you. Allow me
Yeah.
to grab the reins of the show again, gentlemen. Thank you very much. And because CBDC and other issues that are starting to get unpacked, we're going to get there in a moment. I want to finish off on the first question, because we got 10 more that each of you gentlemen provided some great value on. I want to follow up, Will, with the T+3. You and I know what that means because we worked in the financial world, me being a recovering financial advisor and you being a recovering banker. We know what T+3 means. A lot of the listeners don't. T stands for trade, and 3 means 3 more days. So basically, the way the Wall Street transferring of the money world has worked all these years is trade. If you call your broker and say, I want to sell XYZ stock or bond, they have, by regulation, T, the trade day, that's 1 day, plus three more days to effectively get that money, get that instrument liquidated, raise the capital, and put it into your money market or whatever the case, or direct it elsewhere. Right? A good way to describe T+3, correct, Will?
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. And that's just, it was always 3 because it took time to do wires and settlements.
Mhm. All right, so thanks. And let's move on to the next question. We'll start at the top of the panel, back to Rob Cunningham. What is ISO? Again, simple. What is ISO 20022? What does that mean? And can we name all or some of the, which Will has done in the past for us, some of the 9 ISO compliant cryptos? So let's begin there. What is ISO 2022? Let's begin there, Rob.
Well, let's start with ISO. It stands for the International Standards Organization. It is an entity that kind of globally helps everyone understand FAA rules or how to fly, or the metric systems or things having to do with electricity or power generation. It's a standardization entity that holds the protocol of the standards and helps people use the same type of shipping container, let's say, around the world. What's the standard so that there's interoperability and everyone can scale the creativity and the productivity of humanity. So ISO 20022 is a subcategory of the International Standards Organization having to do with cryptocurrencies and blockchains. What are the standards? What are the requirements? What are the elements, such as transactions per second, or accountability standards, or the ciphertext / cryptocurrency security standards that are necessary? What are the regulatory tech data transmission requirements that can operate at scale under duress, globally? So when you're transferring trillions, billions, quadrillions of dollars a year, these are standards that have to be met in order for a project, whether it's, some of the projects are included XRPL, Ledger, and XRP, the Stellar Network and XLM, Hedera and HBAR, Algorand and Algo is its coin. Quant is an overledger technology that helps kind of connect interoperability among all the different blockchain networks. You've got, I think I said Algo, I said Quant, HBAR, XLM, XDC. I believe, help me out here, Mel. Is it Alga? Is it Cardano? And there's,
Yeah.
You're on mute. You're on mute, Mel.
Can you hear me now?
We've got no audio.
Yes,
Can you hear
sir.
me now?
We got you now.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, Cardano is definitely part of it. Absolutely.
Right. So anyone can look up, do a Google search, a Chat GPT search, and look up ISO 20022 coins. But what those mean is that it's a recognizable standard in every 207 countries, and every fintech company, and every treasury, and every institution in the world that can look at what standards does the network, the blockchain, the programmers, the developer ecosystem, what is it that they have to do? What type of tools do they have to operate in developing the ecosystem? So why is this important? The internet didn't create Amazon, didn't create Microsoft, didn't create Netflix. The internet was a standard, it was a protocol. They had TCP IP. Okay. They had standards and protocols that
Correct.
made the internet operate. And then developers come in and they build their businesses on top of those protocols. The blockchains and the blockchain cryptocurrencies that meet similar standards need to be infrastructural, layer one, highest standard, battle tested protocols. So the next generation of companies that build on top of these blockchain, and look, there are blockchains that move liquidity. There are blockchains that move collateral. There are blockchains that move data. There are blockchains that move contracts. Okay. No one blockchain will do it all, but the safety and the protocol standards of each of these different blockchains either does or does not meet the standards set by the ISO body.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Rob. Will, any contribution to that? That was pretty thorough. I'm not sure how much
Great.
more the panel can
It's
contribute.
a great
but please do.
explanation. Well, I want to make it really simple. The 20022 specification for everyone out there, just to understand, it's the specification for how to record a financial transaction. And if everyone is using the same spec or recording their transactions the same, it has very interesting phenomenon that comes from this. And that means that different chains can be interoperable with each other because they're recorded identically the same way. So now you have different chains talking to each other. They can now interact with each other because the standard of recording is all the same. And it's much like, a lot of people have a hard time trying to understand this idea of what is a token and what is a stable coin and what is it. Those are all things that run on the chain. Okay. But it's to make it really simple, it's not any different than like when you buy a house, you go and record your property at the county, right? Now you've got a record at the county, who owns that piece of property. Everybody knows, hey, Will Barney owns this piece of property, okay? The same thing goes on with blockchain, except now you're looking at a digital ledger and everybody can see you've got that token, you've got that asset. There's no question. And this brings up some very interesting dynamics when you start talking about trading value among each other. When you go to enter a smart contract, and John, let's say you've got a token and I want to buy it from you, and we're going to enter a contract to do that transaction. You don't have to wonder if I have the value, the money, the tokens, whatever, to pay for that, because the system tells you whether I do or not. You don't even have to trust me. You don't have to say, come on, John, I'll pay you by Friday. Don't worry, right? None of that applies here because the ledger says the seller has the token and the buyer has the money. And I know we've talked about this sometimes, but it's basically trustless. You don't have to trust anybody because the system does all that vetting for you. And you can imagine how fast things are going to move when it's instantly known when you go and enter that smart contract whether or not the parties can actually affect that smart contract. You can't enter it if you can't do it. It's going to be really simple. So you're going to see massive speed increases when it comes to trading with one another. And there's a process to all that. You've got to learn how these work. And I liked what Rob said about different types of chains that do different things. Some are really good at contracts. Some are good at holding asset value. You're gonna have some chains that are going to be really good at holding real estate tokens, because we're going to be moving deeds into tokens. That's what's going to happen. And that's going to change the entire real estate industry, because now you can sell your house to anybody. And guess what? No title is needed, because if you have the token, that is title. You don't have to do title searches. You don't have to look at all the money saved in these transactions. We have so much middleman gook in our systems right now. We can't even imagine what it's going to be like when we start going peer-to-peer direct every single time for pennies. So cheap, inexpensive, and super fast. And I think it's going to be quite exciting as people start to understand that this specification, this 20022 specification, is opening the door to a whole new world. It's allowing all of us to interact with each other on that specification and build your APIs, build your systems on top of that. But with that specification, we can now operate with each other, and it's going to be fantastic. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. Well, my comment is, when we think about how much the world changed, we can't even think about it because it's so much our world now. But if you ponder it, when the internet was released to us for use, life has changed dramatically. Now we're talking about money, contracts for the whole world being changed on how that moves and how that functions, as you and Rob just defined. It is going to be, it's going to change everything. And I couldn't even start to think in what ways, but it will change everything. And I look forward to it. And that key word that you and Rob have spoken about before is powerful: trustless. That's a very strong word to define an important aspect of QFS and crypto and encryption and so forth. Trustless, because Lord knows, we certainly can't trust our politicians, or most of them. We certainly can't trust the systems, the antiquated system that are set up, as you said, the gook in there, they love that gook. They love that gook. They make that gook work for them at our expense quite often.
The gook is a business model.
The Gook is a business model. That should be the name of this broadcast. The Gook is a business model. Or we can call it Finagle the Bagel. I like that one. Being a former recovering New Yorker, I'm surprised I never used that term. But Mel, any comments on ISO 20022 you'd like to contribute before we move into a new subject?
Yeah, absolutely. The ISO 20022, obviously these gentlemen, I can't really steal their thunder too much, but it's going to be a precise banking language that the banks are going to have to communicate with themselves with. It's Basel compliant, it's gold backed, it's silver backed. And that's why we always say, look, if you don't know anything about investing in XRP or the ISO tokens, there's about 8 of them, just buy them. Put your wallets in the underwear drawer. Make sure you have your key phrases in multiple places, not just one place. Add a couple extra characters in there in case it gets into the wrong hands. And this way they cannot break into your wallet. And go back about your very existence and do your thing, and don't even worry about it. But those are the ones you want to invest in. This is the reason why we're having a Mexican standoff with the banks right now, because they're all jockeying for position to try to get their piece of the pie. Understand? And so that you got the central bank digital currency, you got the stable coins, and they're all jockeying for. This is why we should have been rich 2-3 years ago, but we're not, because the banks want to get their fair share, because they fell asleep behind the driver's seat, and now they woke up to a nightmare. They realized that me, Barney, and everybody in this room and everybody around the world is about to become their own banks, and this is a nightmare to them, because we really don't need them anymore, to be quite frank.
That is a great point, Mel. Thanks for raising that. And it's music to my ears that we caught the banks blindsided. Federal Reserve, IRS, you throw all that in there too. But let's move on to a new subject. We'll go to the top of the panel with Rob. How and where does one invest in crypto? What is Coinbase, Uphold? Let's unpack that a little bit.
Sure. Well, there's primarily 2 methods to do it. You can go onto an exchange like Uphold, Coinbase, Kraken, Robinhood, set up an account, KYC, upload your documents, take a picture, they verify who you are, and then you can end up buying crypto. Until the Clarity Act passes, there's a little risk in there because there's the risk of default. If the institution goes away, they can claim that your crypto is their asset. They can take it for liquidation purposes. The Clarity Act gets rid of that. Okay, your crypto is your crypto. Second way to buy it is to set up a wallet where you have custody of your own. It's called a cold wallet because it's not hot, it's not online, there's not a third party agent involved. You set up a wallet. You can do it. There's all types of wallets. There are some that are much better than others. You have to do your own research, but you can set up a wallet, still have to do the KYC, still have to do all your identification, verification. And then once your account is set up, you can fund it just as if you were funding your daughter's, college savings account or your IRA account or moving money from one checking account to another. You can then move money, they call it on an off ramp, off the traditional finance, send it to your wallet via wire transfer, via ACH, however you want to send the money. And then once the money lands in that wallet, then you're able to buy whichever cryptocurrency or token that you would like to own. Now, the responsibility for a cold wallet is yours and yours alone. The risk is yours and yours alone. If you lose the wallet, if you forget your keys, if the housekeeper finds your keys and copies them down and transfers money out of your wallet, your assets are gone. If your house burns down and you have your seed phrase in your house and you don't remember what it is, Mel and Will, we can tell you stories of, they're saying the original Satoshi lost his seed phrase and had over 1 million Bitcoin and could never find them. Don't know if it's true or not, but the point is, if you lose your seed phrase and you cannot get into your wallet, you cannot get access to your tokens and they're forever gone. So there is some responsibility on the owner. We have to completely, as Mel said, we're going to have to change our mindset and learn what it means to be a steward and be our own banker. Learn how to lend, learn how to create yield, learn how to hold our assets and diversify our assets and think like a banker instead of think like a consumer and a borrower. If you own these tokens and they become as valuable as many think they will, then you're going to have to adopt a brand new mentality, mindset, and skill set to think, how am I going to manage these assets for my children's children? How is that going to work? And it's going to require it's a blessing, but it's not going to just accidentally happen. We have to put the work into it to unlearn what we've learned in the past and learn a whole brand new mindset of stewarding wealth the way bankers have done it, but we have to do it for our family, ourselves, and our communities. And it's going to inevitably flip the money changer tables over in 207 countries and allow there to be a bottom-up wealth explosion where Mel can be a banker in his hometown and I can be one in mine, and Will and John, you can be bankers and you can lend and you can put your digital assets up for collateral and let the community build a church or let the community build a new school system. You could put the money up, the community could borrow from you. You never lose control of your assets, but you can be kind of the underwriting financier of what a health clinic, a school, a trade college, whatever it is that you want to build. And we could pledge our assets, earn some interest from the community, but never sell our assets. Always maintain control while we're developing our family or our communities from the ground up. And this mindset is going to shift the power from top down to bottom up the world over.
What a great way to close out that segment on that question. I love it. Flipping the power and flipping those tables. Excellent. Thank you, Rob. Great information. Will, you want to step into this turf? How
Well,
and where does one? Yeah.
Rob did a great job of kind of doing an overview, but when you deal in the digital world and you're on the chain, you have two ways of holding keys. The tokens are going to live on the ledger. You don't have to worry about that. But you can't touch those tokens. You can't move them. You can't buy them, sell them if you don't have the keys that allows you to move it. If you don't have the key to open a door, you can't unlock it, right? So the key is vital. If you're using a software system, like let's say you go to Coinbase or you go to Gemini or you go to Kraken or Lobster, any of these, it's a software system. So when you log in, they say, oh yeah, you've got 50 XRP. I'm making up a story here, but let's say you got 50 XRP. However, that company holds the keys. So what does that mean? It means they can do whatever they want to with those because we don't have a Clarity Act that says they can't touch them. Okay. And we've had a Wild West going on for several years where they've been trading everything in the background. And they won't tell you. I know of an instance I'll say the name was Coinbase, where an individual had some stuff at Coinbase and they wanted to move it over to a place where they could hold their own keys. And so they got a hardware wallet, much like, well, here's one here. You can see us on video, about the size of a little thumb drive, but this holds keys. Okay. Now you have to keep those passphrases and everything on hand. Like Rob said, don't lose those. You lose those, you're toast, right? But this will hold your keys. So what that means is that you can transfer keys onto here. Now your tokens are held completely by you. Only you can buy, sell, trade, transfer, whatever. Okay. So it's very different in the software world versus the hardware world. If you're in a hardware world, don't lose this and don't lose the passphrase or you're toast. So it's about complete transparency in terms of if you're going to be your own bank, you are 100% responsible. No, you can't blame anybody else on whether you lose something or not. It is all up to you. Now, in the future, we're going to see some adjustments and changes to things like this, where they're going to become biometric, where you're not going to need passphrases as much anymore. Your biometric is going to identify you and only you can use it. Okay. So that's going to be coming in the future. We don't have those out presently, but that's what's coming. And that'll make it a little bit easier because as long as it verifies you as a person, right, then you should be fine. Not sure when we're getting those, but my guess is within the next 24 months. So there's some stuff going on that's going to be bringing new technology to make it easier for us to transact. But ultimately, it's about sovereignty. It's one of the big buzzwords everybody talks about these days is I want to be sovereign, but most people don't think about what it means. It ultimately means that you are completely, wholly self-responsible for everything. That means you're responsible for your own bank accounts. You're responsible for how you use your money and how you invest it and everything else. You're not giving away that sovereignty to somebody else. That's a big deal. And it also means that you have to take full stewardship of what the inheritance is that you may be passing to future generations. You are the steward of that until it's handed into their hands. So as we look at digital technology to move value, crypto, I personally love hardware devices. Why? Because I would prefer to know if those tokens are being traded, bought, sold, or anything else going on with them. I don't want somebody else doing that behind my back. Okay? Because the banks have been doing that stuff right now. If you put money in a bank account, what do you think they do every night? They can sweep those accounts and loan it out, right? This has been going on for 100 years. So the Clarity Act has opponents on both sides, the banks and cryptos, because they both have something to lose here. If the Clarity Act passes, it holds everyone accountable for the custodian of what that is. So if you're if you were one of the exchanges, you are now a custodian and you have to be accountable for it. Okay, you can't be playing with other people's stuff. You have to keep it safe and sound. Well, some crypto companies don't like that because they've been playing with stuff in the background and having a heyday with it. Okay. At the same time, the banks don't want it because it means that you don't have to send money through them anymore. You can send it directly, person to person, peer to peer. I can send tokens from a device to Mel or to Rob, and they have it in seconds. And it never went through a bank. Didn't pass go. Nobody collected $200. Just went directly. It's fantastic. But it means that we have to become responsible people at the same time. And we have to take that responsibility. We can't blame others when things go awry. We have to be responsible in how we handle that. So I think it's asking humanity as a whole to take responsibility, to step up, be a part of your own life. Don't be blaming others. Don't be a part of the slave system anymore. You are now a sovereign being. You're now able to stand on your own 2 feet. And this is going to allow us to do that. And we're going to be able to do it at lightning speed. And the cool thing is with AI advancements, you're going to have various tools allowing you to buy, sell, and trade at speeds you never had before and at quantities you never had before because you now have computer skills on top of that. So I think ultimately what that is going to mean for people as they learn to use these skills and these particular tools is that money's not going to be a thing anymore. Everyone's going to have it. You're going to be able to be very successful in your endeavors of what you're doing because it's going to be so easy to leverage through computerization and digitalization, additional resources and additional trades. And so this is going to change things dramatically as we look at going from a scarcity mentality to an abundance mentality. The whole key to that, though, is we get there through responsibility, through being self-responsible, take control of your life, take control of your assets, and you'll bless your family for generations.
Thank you, Will. You've unpacked a lot. I'm going to spend a few minutes talking with you before we move on to Mel and then take on a new subject. I want to dive into wallets a little bit in a moment. But when you use the word responsibility and accountability, as us being our own bankers and so forth, what comes to my mind are people with blue hair standing in front of cars on the highway. They're going to have a tough time with this accountability and responsibility. Good luck to them. But for the rest of us, this is music to my ears. And the education is what is most important. So again, crypto for dummies. Will, I want to ask you a few questions. Help me out here. Number one. So, and correct me along the way, please. So you have someone is interested. I want crypto. So they can go to a store, we'll call it Coinbase, Uphold. They go to a place that has some crypto.
Mm-hmm.
They want to buy
Sure.
it. They buy some crypto at Uphold. Uphold then sends them presumably a key or a password or a code. According to what I'm learning, they would need to safeguard that code, ideally on a hard drive of some sort or a wallet. We're going to break wallets down in a minute. So if that's a sequential step from layman's standpoint so far, we went to a store called Uphold. We bought some crypto. We got a key or a code.
They'll give you a
Now,
code to your
right
account,
there.
but you have to understand they hold the keys. When you
Right.
set
So
up you go to a software exchange, they hold the keys. So some people are okay with that. You know, not everybody wants to go hardware. Okay. But that's going to be a choice everyone makes.
Okay. So
John,
if they hold the keys,
there's a slang phrase in the industry that up until the time the Clarity Act passes and in a little while after is not your keys, not your crypto. That's been around for 15 years. Okay. Not your keys, not your crypto. Somebody else can, as Will has said, trade it, move it, swap it, claim it as estate property in a bankruptcy. A lot of people, when FTX went down, lost a lot of their crypto. A lot of people lost a lot of stuff.
help me out here. So you go to, again, for dummies, you go to Uphold, you bought a crypto, you got a key. Okay, you have a choice to put it on a hard drive, wallet, or you keep it in the digital wallet space, but it's co-shared, is it not, with Uphold? They must have the key if they issued it to you. Is there a
No,
danger there?
it's
How do you alleviate it?
when you transfer it from Uphold to a hardware device, it's no
Mhm.
longer at Uphold. You now have a key.
Okay. Now, if you don't,
They have nothing to do with it anymore.
if you do not transfer it to a hard drive, well, let me rephrase that. From what I'm learning here, it would seem that everyone should transfer it to a hard drive because there's still an element of co-sharing and danger by not having it on a hard drive. Am I right or wrong with that statement?
It's true, and these are more accessible than ever. I mean, you can go into Best Buy and pick up a crypto wallet, right? So they're easily attainable if you want to just do that first and then buy directly from the software that runs your device. Then you're not going through a third party like an Uphold or Coinbase or whatever. You're doing it directly. A lot of people will try the exchanges first and to learn how it works, just play with it, make a transaction, buy something so they can kind of learn
Yes.
how it works. And then they might start graduating to, self custodian type of transaction.
Which later will lead to biometric in terms of access, as you stated before, our frequency and our identifying us as the person, correct? And hardwares and all these things.
That's going to be coming in the future. Right now, you've got a series of passphrases. In other words, there's specific words, specific phrases that have to be in specific order, or you cannot access that device. Only you have that. Okay.
Mhm.
Don't lose that, or you're toast. You can't even get into your own device if you have trouble there. Okay.
Mhm.
However, in the future, the device is going to be able to record your biometrics, and so only you can open it in the future, which is going to be that's the next step of this process, so that no one can, as Rob talked about it. The cleaning lady finds your written passphrase somewhere and gets into it, right? Well, no one would be able to get into it once it becomes biometric. So eventually, we're
Sure.
going there. We're just not quite there yet.
Well, and to
Understood. One last.
Will's point, look, we have biometric cards like this. This is called a tantrum card. Okay. And instead of having to every time memorize your phrase, you can set up an account, and yet you cannot transfer, trade, sell, swap, do anything with your account unless this thing touches like your smartphone. Okay. And there's a chip inside of this. Okay. So it's not biometric per se, but it is a third part. I can put this in my safe and move it away. Now, if anybody steals my phone, they can't move my crypto because they don't have this device.
Mhm.
Okay. In the future, if they don't have my iris or they don't have my fingerprint, they can't move the assets. Okay.
Mhm.
Keys to biometrics, but in between biometrics are things like this, where there are
Understood.
devices that you have to have both or nothing happens. The assets can't
Mhm.
move. We're getting more advanced as it goes, and there's
Mhm.
much more sophisticated, components than that. But again, this is a part of becoming a banker, having a vault, being an adult, and learning how to take responsibility for your own property. It's all one big thing called sovereignty, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thanks. One more point, Will, Barney, and then we'll go to Mel. Back to using the fictitious example. Someone buys from Uphold, they're issued their key, and even this is the question: if they transfer key to hard drive for now, does the key still remain at Uphold? Does Uphold still have the ability to trade, manipulate, and/or use your crypto coin, even if you've moved it to a hard drive?
No.
No.
On their end,
Good.
it looks as if there are no more tokens there accessible to them.
Right.
It's zeroed out.
Understood. All right. Well, excellent. Mel, we've unpacked quite a bit on this. There might not be much more to comment on, but what are your views about all this?
Well, if you go back on my videotapes, all the stuff lives on my videos for the last 6.5 years of this endeavor of podcasting. And I'm
Mhm.
in complete, total in line with Mr. Barney in regards to the biometrics. I've been saying this years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. It's coming, but there's only one element that's missing, and that element is quantum computing. They have to be able to keep your biometrics on a computer that's hard, very difficult, next to impossible to break into. So I would not trust today's computer, for example, to put my biometrics on there, but a quantum computer like on steroids times 10 that
Mhm.
is beyond hacker proof. Yeah, obviously then that would be, it's going to be a thumbprint. It's going to be an eye. The thief is not going to have your thumb. The thief is not going to have your eyeball. The thief is not going to have your palm print. The thief is not going to have the features that they use already on, which is the features of your face, which is what unlocks your iPhone, for example. All,
Mhm.
all of that stuff comes into play. You might even get a telephone call on your iPhone to make sure it's you. And then you have to put in a code and boom, voila, now you're in, right? I think
Mhm.
that's where it's going. Look, we've been doing this long enough. I think I speak for all of us on this panel. I think we have what's called PhDs, public high school diplomas on this stuff. I've been at this for almost 11 years. You get to learn a few things doing this over and over and over again. It's really not that difficult. Like you opened up the show with the word sex. I think it's a lot simpler than sex. You have to dive in. You know what I mean? Or you will get left behind. There's no question about it. And if you get left behind in this particular world that we're graduating into, you're going to live a very sorry existence, I think, because even that 6,000 or 7,000 or $10,000 a month that they give you with the price of inflation, that's never stopping. You're basically going to barely make things ends meet, and I don't think you want to be there. I think there's still an opportunity for America to become extremely wealthy, and not taking advantage of this window that's open right now is a crucial mistake.
Thank you, Mel. And I'm not going to dive into Elon Musk and all he's saying on the trajectory that you were on, but it's good for another program for us to really get into this high universal income, this uh, uh, repatriation of stolen tax wealth from us, and so forth and so on, with statements like we don't need to save and so money's not going to be the big issue. That's a fascinating discussion to dive into down the line. I want to go back to the top of the panel. Maybe this is brief, maybe it's not. I don't know. We'll see what you guys unpack. But what is the difference between a cold wallet and a hot wallet? What's the difference between a coded key and a trust? These seem to be mechanisms that hold the crypto, but yet they have different words, different meanings, different functionalities. Can you break that down for us, starting again with Rob?
Well, let me see if I can draw a different mental picture. Think of this as either three parties or two parties. If I have a wallet and my assets, the only two parties involved are me and my asset. I got keys that's on the wallet, but if I have my assets and me and Coinbase, now I have three parties. Okay. There's a third party risk mitigating factor in the middle, an agent, an institution that is holding my assets. And I can do something with my assets. They can do something with my assets, and my assets exist. If let's say I went on a Coinbase and put $1,000 in the account and bought some assets, and then I moved them over from Coinbase to my wallet, now there's only two parties involved, me and my wallet. So you introduce a third party risk when you have a third party institution involved in the custody or the holding or the trust. You're entrusting a third party to have those assets. So the question is really simple. Do you want anybody else to be able to touch, move, or manipulate your assets or not? Some people won't care. Some people will trust the institution. One of the things about decentralized ledger technology is that we do get to go to a system of trustlessness where we're in control and we're not at the mercy of a third party institution. So it's a personal preference, it's a safety preference, and it's a risk management preference. For me, look, it's like riding a bicycle. The first time you go and try to figure out, and I remember back in early 2020, if you count them 6.5, 7 years ago, trying to figure this all out, set up a wallet and do KYC and write down a key phrase and get the money funded and buy your first token. It was awkward. It was weird. It was like, oh my God, what am I doing? The second time, it was 50% easier. And the third time, you're ready to go BMX motorcycle racing out in the dirt because it's so easy. But there is a learning curve. You have to learn it. It's different. But once you begin to understand the parts and the pieces, it's as easy as riding a bicycle.
Will, you want to fill in any blanks on the differentiation
Well,
between the wallets
you
and the
talked about
storage?
some interesting terms: hot storage, cold storage,
Mhm.
soft wallet, hard wallet. What all these things mean.
Mhm.
Hard means hardware. Okay. Cold means it's disconnected from the internet. Okay.
Mhm.
This is not, you see, there's no cord to it. It's not hooked to anything right now.
Mhm.
It's disconnected. So essentially, it's a cold piece of hardware. Okay.
Got it.
To make that simple for people to understand.
Mhm.
However, if I want to do a transaction and I need to access these keys, I have to connect to it in order to affect that transaction. Does that make sense? So
It does. Thank
I
you.
like what Rob said about the third party. We've lived for 100 years in a three-party system where we're trusting the bank to be our custodian for everything. And guess what? They keep banker hours, banker holidays, like 4 o'clock on a Saturday. Forget it. Nobody's answering your call. I'm sorry, right? It's not going to happen. But this 24/7, every day, any day, we're going to wonder why we ever went to a building
right.
down the street to
That's
help
right.
us once we start doing this. We're going to be like, why do I even have an account over there? Right?
Oh yeah.
We're going to get past it really fast. It's going to be like the people that no longer have a landline phone in their house. They're like, why did we
Correct.
use that bank system? That was amazing. Those people had control of our money every day.
You
So
know,
I think it's just about learning. And I like what Rob said is, and Mel said this too. You have to just kind of practice. People have asked me all the time, well, how do I learn this? I say, you know what? I'll make it really easy for you. Take $50, take $100, set up an account, and just play with it.
mhm.
Use that as your education, because you only
Yeah.
kind of learn by doing, and do a few transactions, and pretty quick you'll be like, okay, I think I got this down. You do it the same way every time. Okay, I got this, right?
Mhm.
And I think we will be riding the bike really quick as we get through that. But that's the whole key, is anything related to an exchange. So that's Uphold, that's Coinbase, that's Gemini, that's Kraken. All these exchanges, they're like the bank, and you're trusting them to hold your digital assets or hold it yourself. Those are your options.
Thank you, Will. Excellent. I'm taking some notes. I got a powerful question to ask at the conclusion of this special broadcast that wasn't kind of scripted in, that's come to me now and getting educated from you three gentlemen. And I very much look forward to ending this show with that question. I'll leave it as a mystery sandwich at the moment. Mel, do you want to fill in any blanks? You've got a lot of experience in this wallet world. Anything else you'd like to
Absolutely.
contribute?
Yeah,
Yes.
not to take away anything from Barney or Rob, the great comments both of you gentlemen had us off. Basically, a hot wallet is safe until it's not safe anymore. Number one, there was a wallet called Atomic Wallet. I'm sure you gentlemen remember this a few years back. It's a carbon copy of Exodus.com, which used to be called Exodus something else. They changed it to .com. It's a carbon copy. It's identical. Works. It's got the buttons in the same place. It's identical. One was called Atomic Wallet. One's called Exodus. Atomic Wallet got hacked into. A bunch of people's money was gone. So, you're playing with a hot potato when you're doing that, number one. Number two, the only way to really be on a hot wallet is if you're a trader and you're buying low, selling high, and you got it, dialed in, etc. That's another way to be on a hot wallet. I personally don't do trading. I'm a little old school. I just buy and hold. I got extra money, I buy. If it's going up and I got extra money, I buy. If it stays level for 6 months, I got extra money, I buy. If it goes low, I got extra money, I buy. I just keep buying. I'm an old fart, you know what I mean? And I just keep accumulating, and hopefully one day they call my number and say, "Come on in," and we go in and collect our dues. But and we're not that far off. I do believe that we're very, very close. There's a lot of rumblings right now in the Iraqi dinar, and I think it's indicative of the entire market, to be quite frank. But yeah, a hot wallet, it's good and it's bad. I mean, it's good if you want to maybe exchange, for example, your XLM for XRP or vice versa. But then take it out. In my opinion, is to take it out, put it on your Tangent wallet, put it on your favorite flavor wallet, and keep it off the internet. That's the best way to stay safe.
I want to ask you a question, Mel, before we take a new subject on at the top of the panel. As we fast forward, and I'm oversimplifying this, uh, obviously right now we have a Federal Reserve note, which nobody wants, and
Mhm.
we're replacing it in the near future with a Treasury note issued by the Treasury, backed by gold and perhaps other commodities. And this would be in a series of steps that, because the whole dialogue thus far in this hour we've been talking has been not paper money, it's been digital assets. And, but, we're not there yet. So let's go backwards. So we have, at some point, the Treasury issues our currency, bypassing the Federal Reserve. Um, and, uh, and I guess what I'm getting at is this: if someone has crypto and we're still also operating with the new Treasury note, we'll call it our new dollar, and thank goodness for President Trump and Scott Bessent and everyone else that's freeing us from those strangleholds of the Federal Reserve System. But things will happen in stages and phases. So fast forward, we have in our old school wallets, the leather thing in your back pocket or the lady's purse, they've got the new US dollar, the Treasury note. But they also have some crypto. Now, here comes this simple question again for Dummies 101. Here we are. So if someone has their crypto and they want to turn it into dollars, can they do that?
Of course.
How?
Yeah. I mean, you have your exchanges that will do that for you, or you have your brokerage firms that will do that for you, or
Okay.
it's really not that difficult. I mean, personally, I would park some of my money on this next bull run on a three-party or four-party verification cold wallet with some of the more elite brokers that deal with elite clients that fly around in their private jets and yachts and all that kind of stuff, that cater to the very, very rich, because the very, very rich usually don't make any mistakes. That's how they got rich in the first place. They measure 9 times, they cut once, and they usually always make hit a home run. I can tell you that having the money parked there in the event of a massive bull run, you could get your money out very quickly. I spoke to one of my good friends, Jake, not too long ago. He says, "Mel, it's not that difficult to get to sell 8 or 10% of your bags." So he's assured me that you can get out pretty quick. And a lot of people will experience a bottleneck if you're with Uphold and Coinbase, because there's a unwritten law. They don't want the little guy to get to the riches. And so I don't trust these cabal institutions, if you will,
Mhm.
specifically for that point.
Yes, thank you. Taxable event. We're going to get into the Clarity Act a little bit later and strip that down some more
Oh,
and
that's
its
my favorite
importance and what
subject, by the
happens.
way.
Yeah, we'll get there in a minute, but I want to ask you about taxable event currently. If someone owns their crypto and they trade
Mhm,
it for dollars, or they sell, well, they sell it for profit,
mhm.
one way or the other. Is it a taxable event? Is it capital gains, ordinary income? I realize we're getting into expertise of accountants, but any comment about the taxability of a gain if a crypto is liquidated?
Well, I don't live in that world. I don't. I refuse to live in
Okay.
that world. I have removed myself from that
Understood.
world completely and entirely.
Understood.
I gave everything. I gave
Mhm.
everything to Jesus. Okay, and I control everything, and I own nothing. I have what's called a religious irrevocable trust on steroids, and it is as airtight, watertight as it will ever be. And so we registered everything we own: our gold, our silver, our dinars, our cryptocurrency, our cars, our businesses, our PMAs. Everything is owned by God. And when I need something, I basically say, "Hey, God, I need something," and God ironically provides every single time without fail.
So you're an
Understood. Thank
officer.
you.
You're an officer of the PMA, but not an owner of anything.
I'm the trustee. I'm a nobody.
There you go. But the trustee has the
Right.
privileges of buying a car,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
But it's
it's
not,
funny. You could buy a
but it's not
Lamborghini and
yours.
you could drive the Lamborghini. You got to maintain the Lamborghini. You got to clean the Lamborghini, but God owns the Lamborghini. So I wanted a specific gun for this past Christmas. So I bought myself a Colt 19. Okay. It was made in back in the early 1900s, 1911, 1912. I forget exactly the year. And it's a 25 ACP. It's worth a lot of money. And I don't know why the guy sold it to me for $500 because it doesn't have a scratch. If you look at it, you think it's like 1912. Okay. It's worth probably 8 times what he sold it to me for. And I said, God, I want this gun, and God provided that exact gun. And ironically, it's practically brand new.
Understood the
But
analogies. Go ahead, Will. You want to
we
comment?
live in a world where everybody wants to get tax everything. So you have
Mhm.
the Clarity Act is going to bring clarity to what is considered securities are going to end up probably going into the capital gains category. But if it's considered currency, you can't tax currency. Okay.
Okay.
So they're going to have to differentiate that. So blockchain, if
Mhm.
you've got stable coin, which is essentially just digital dollars, that's probably not going to be taxable. If you've got
Mhm.
other assets or digital tokens, it's going to depend on what your personal tax status is. Mel has removed himself from a tax status, which is a blessing to him. Now,
Mhm.
this has been going on for years. I remember in the banking world running into certain structures, if you call that the elites had, and they were out of the system too. Okay.
How about
Like,
that?
man, where does this stuff come from? Well, now there are people that know how to do it. I know the people have been doing this stuff for over 50 years. So there is options, but those options always require a certain amount of personal responsibility, if you will. But remember the old adage, own nothing and control everything. That's how
Mhm.
the rich stay rich. Okay.
Yes.
Because they're not giving away a third of everything they do every year, the way you may be doing it. So that's a whole nother subject, and I'm not a tax
Yes,
expert,
sir.
so I'm not going to claim to be a tax person. But there are options for those that are seeking to be responsible and to be a steward, right, for those assets in a righteous way.
As this administration continues to move forward with dismantling the powers of the Internal Revenue Service and the Federal Reserve itself, but speaking to taxes, we'll go to the IRS. A lot of these questions won't even need to be addressed a little bit down the line, or perhaps a little bit. And I wait for that day to really shine brighter than it's shining right now, but it is in motion. Captain Rob, let's go to talk about Bitcoin. What is Bitcoin? Why are the Trumps so invested in Bitcoin? Why is Bitcoin going way up and then collapsing way down? You've got very important, knowledgeable people that say Bitcoin is going to be zero and Bitcoin will be a billion. What is Bitcoin? What is happening? Anything? Let's unpack Bitcoin for a bit. Take it away, sir.
Sure. Well, Bitcoin gets credit for being the godfather of the narrative of decentralized computing and distributed ledgers so that there is a mathematical, computational uh, derivative of trading property through mathematical code between two parties, institution free. There's a limited number of Bitcoin that will ever exist in the world, 21 million, minus those that have been lost due to lost keys or confiscated by the government or whatever. But the idea of this decentralized ledgering model is, how do we get value that's captured truthfully and honestly and ledgered, free of debasement, inflation, printing money out of thin air, something that is honest, something that is valuable, something that's recognizable the world over? How do we have a digital representation that's an ounce of gold, an ounce of gold, an ounce of gold? It's the same everywhere over the world. A Bitcoin should be the same value all over the world. The issue is that Bitcoin introduced the world to this idea shortly after the 2008 economic crash, the subprime mortgage crisis. Early January 2009, I believe, is when the white paper for Bitcoin, please correct me, gentlemen, if I got the date wrong, but I believe it was January of 2009 when the white paper for Bitcoin was released, and off to the races we went. The issue is with Bitcoin, the good news is you can mine it. You can have a supercomputer power race among miners the world over to try to verify transactions, and then you earn a piece of a Bitcoin every time you're able to validate a transaction and write it to the ledger. So you have a system where miners are incentivized to get faster and faster and faster and more powerful computing engines, server farms, warehouses of computers, in order to validate cryptographically, I gave Mel $100 or Mel gave me $100. And if they can validate, they're the first and the fastest to validate and confirm Mel is Mel and I'm me. I have the assets, I'm transferring them to Mel, and they write that to the ledger, then those miners get a piece of that Bitcoin. So there's an incentive to be the fastest and the first. The problem is scalability, energy consumption, transaction cost, speed. You could theoretically go in and try to buy a Starbucks coffee with a Bitcoin and sit there for 20 minutes until the damn transaction settles. And it could be very expensive. And no one's going to wait because it doesn't scale. The transactions per second is very slow. The energy cost is high. And unfortunately, when it came out, the world fell in love with Bitcoin. A lot of people did. And they overpromised the world and they underdelivered almost everything. It can't scale. It doesn't have utility. It doesn't do smart contracts on the layer one aspect of Bitcoin. And so, sort of like Netscape came out in 1995 with Mozilla, the first web browser. Well, Chrome is like the 38th web browser. Just because you're first doesn't mean you're the best and the fastest, and improvements can't be made. People that helped to develop Bitcoin 3 years later, engineers that helped develop the XRP ledger. So there are many options for utility, speed, transferability, functionality, low cost, low energy use, pre-mined maximums. XRP has 100 billion tokens. There will never be more than 100 billion tokens. Why so many? Because it's designed for liquidity, it's designed for transaction speed, it's designed for institutions like the BlackRocks and the Bank of Americas and the JP Morgans and the SBI group that runs Japan. it's designed for liquidity among major institutions that are going to be responsible for moving 2, 3, 4 quadrillion dollars a year of assets and derivatives and commodities and stocks and bonds and options and car titles and smart contracts the world over. You have to have something that is much better, faster, and more efficient and more affordable than what Bitcoin offers us today. So the difference is Bitcoin got the party started, and other technologies have improved upon the idea for very different functions.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you, Rob. Will, do you want to weigh in on Bitcoin? And also, if you can, address the Trumps. What is Eric doing? Why are the Trumps mining Bitcoin? What is their ultimate objective? But unpack anything else you'd like to add to what Rob provided.
Well, they built a large data center so they can try to transact these validations faster. Having been somebody that's transacted with Bitcoin and owned it, it's slow and cumbersome. Personally, that's how I feel about it. When you compare it to other technologies that came later, like XRP, like XLM, and others, it's not even in the same category. If you have to wait 20 minutes to close that transaction to buy your cup of coffee at a Starbucks, the whole line of people behind you can be very angry, okay? But if you can walk up there and you can buy that in 3 seconds on XRP or Stellar, everybody's happy. So they're not even in the same category, in my opinion. Now, why are the Trumps going into that? Because a lot of people still have Bitcoin, a lot of people are still going to use it, and they're going to go ahead, because they have data center access, they're going to go ahead and use the data center and get what they can get from it. Okay, it's just a business decision. Okay, let's see what we can mine from this and earn some money off of it. Personally, I don't have any of that particular token anymore, because when I hit 118,000, I thought happy day, and I converted it to something else. Okay, so I'm not one that's holding that anymore. And now look at the price of it today. I'm really glad I got out when I did. Okay, so but my decision had everything to do with utility and really nothing else, because what I was looking at is if you're going to bet on a token that's going to win the race, it's going to be the one that everybody's going to want to use. It's going to be fast, efficient, and quick. And that's what everybody's looking for. So why drag around the dinosaur? Bitcoin's going to be around for a while. They call it a store of value. If you look at it as a store of value, it's probably okay, because as a transactional value, it's just too slow. It's just my opinion.
Thank you, Will. We had a little bit of a delay there. Okay, Mel, anything else you'd like to add to the topic of Bitcoin? And one big question, and I know nobody has a crystal ball, but is again, conflicting statements from a lot of different folks out there. Bitcoin's going to explode in growth or collapse and crash. What are your views of that? Anything else you'd like to contribute to the Bitcoin discussion?
John, let me tell you a story. It's a short story, and I'm going to make it even shorter. In 1988, David Schwartz, CTO of XRP Ripple, goes and puts a patent on blockchain technology. True, you can look this up. 1988. Year 2000, he goes to work for DARPA as a consultant. In 2007 and in 2008, what happens? The housing bubble. Now, I'm speculating that they went to him and said, listen, son, we're a bunch of F-ups. You got to go and clean up. You got to clean up the situation that we made, the mess, and you got to create the next monetary system. In my opinion, Bitcoin was the beta for XRP. They went, they did it. They realized it's slow. It costs too much money. It takes too much energy. You could move a couple of Bitcoins. You could run an entire house on the cost that it cost the energy to move those couple of Bitcoins. There are people way in the beginning that paid as much as like $5,000 to move 2 Bitcoins, two, and have waited 5, 6, 7 hours, 8 hours to receive those Bitcoins. So Houston, we got a problem. Who is the only guy that can go back and fix Bitcoin? David Schwartz, aka the main Satoshi Nakamoto. Now, how did I know that? Because I interviewed him in Las Vegas about 2.5 years ago, and that video went beyond hyper viral. There was hundreds of podcasters around me recording it. We were watching all the channels with hundreds of thousands. We've seen it as much as like 1.5 million views. That's where I got my debut. That's how the guy with the big chair became bigger. Okay. When that video went hyper viral, everybody all of a sudden knew who Mel Carmine was. And the questions were right on point. And the beautiful thing of it all was it ended with this particular statement. It was 2 minutes and 39 seconds of capturing lightning in a bottle, literally. And the actual interview ended, yes, you're right. I may very well be one of the main Satoshi Nakamoto. And you could have doused the crowd with gasoline and lit him on fire, and you would have got lesser of a reaction when he said that. People went wild, literally.
Well, thanks for sharing that. I want to jump into, we'll go back to the top of the panel. We're into the second hour of the show, so we're going to wrap up with a couple of closing questions. We touched on it earlier on. Let's jump into it just a little bit more with Captain Rob. Differentiate the central bank digital currency from everything we've been discussing, because we know the president is dead against a central bank digital currency. From the little bit I know, I would agree. But what say you, Rob? And we'll be brief on this if we can, because I got 2 or 3 more questions I do want to get to. Take it away, sir.
Sure. Central bank is a triggering phrase. Central bank generally means fiat. It means NGO. It means Rothschild. It means City of London, Federal Reserve. In a central bank digital currency, if we're trying to get our sovereignty back and we want the Treasury to print our money and not the Federal Reserve, we want to get away from central bank digital currencies. What we would want to have is like an RLUSD or a digital version. Some people say that RLUSD stands for Ripple Labs US dollar, or regulated liability US dollar, or real US dollar, whatever you believe. The issue with a company, a nation like America and the Treasury printing this dollar, and then Ripple under the Genius Act creating a stable coin, there has to be a one-to-one relationship between the number of stable coins that Ripple can issue and the amount of collateral that's held in custody at BNY Mellon. That's their custody agent. That ratio has to stay 1-to-1 forever. What has to be in an account at BNY Mellon? U.S. Treasuries that are going to be gold backed with 93-day or fewer less security. So that audit has to take place every 30 days. There has to be real value in a custody account, an approved custodian for every regulated liability or RLUSD. So there's a 1-to-1 ratio. There's a sound money. You can't just hit a keyboard and introduce $1 trillion into the system. Okay?
Right.
The idea of that, think of 10,000 companies the world over issuing stable coins. As long as they're sound and they're 1-to-1, Ford Motor can issue a stable company. Amazon can a stable coin. Amazon can issue a stable coin. 207 nations can issue a stable coin. Small businesses can issue stable coins as long as it meets the definition of what a stable coin is. CBDC, let's assume, what if we were to rename the Treasury as the central bank of the United States of America? We could do that, but it would still be confusing because central banks, all wars are bankers' wars. The central banks have put us into debt. The central banks have been the ones that hijacked our monetary system and led us into $40 trillion of debt to the City of London, that is the parent of the Federal Reserve, central bank. We're trying to detox the world from this central banking cartel to sovereign nations, where sovereign nations can issue their own currency, budget on their own terms, and trade with other nations based on their own currency, so that nation can have its sovereignty. The idea of a central bank digital currency is anathema to decentralization and sovereignty. And that's why President Trump says there will be no central bank digital currency, because we're getting rid of the central bank cartel. But for all practical purposes, the Treasury was going to be our constitutional bank. It's the entity that can follow the Coinage Act and issue money based on an exact measurement of gold or silver that backs that national dollar. We got away from that when we adopted the Federal Reserve Act. We're going to go back to constitutional sound money, and we're not going to have a third party NGO in the middle of the Treasury of the United States issuing money to the citizens of the United States. We don't need three parties involved in that transaction. We only need two. So we're getting rid of the central bank, and the idea of central bank digital currency keeps it clear that we've moved on from the old system and we're adopting the new.
Wow. Thank you very much. And that feeds right into my final question we'll get to in just a moment. But Will, do you care to comment on the retired banker, central bank digital currency? Anything you can add to?
I don't know if I can. I
and
don't know if
say
I
that
can add to
respectfully.
Rob, but we'll
Yes.
try. We'll try. It's really simple. XRP, XLM, all of these ISO coins, they're all decentralized. It means there's no central ledger. Central bank means there's a central ledger and somebody can affect that. A decentralized ledger means you have nodes, and each node is a copy of the ledger. So if I do a transaction with Mel, let's say I send Mel $50, it's going to be recorded on the local node. It's closest to us, but within 24 hours, it's copied to all other nodes around the world. Decentralized, multiple copies.
Mhm.
You can't fake that. You can't manipulate it, right? Central means somebody has the ability to go in there and play with the numbers. Nobody wants that.
Mhm.
So that's why CBDC is so dangerous. It's really nothing more than what we have already, just digital version of it.
Yeah,
And that
absolutely.
clearly hasn't been working. So let's not
Yep.
go down that road. And that's why I want people to understand this discussion isn't about CBDCs. This is about the antithesis of CBDCs. This is about, we don't need a central third party handling the money between us. We can just go
Mhm.
direct, person to person. And you'll see the Federal Reserve will go away. What you're going to have happen is you get a Clarity Act passed, and maybe that's a discussion item here, but once you get the Clarity Act passed, you can stand up and let's say the Treasury says, "Oh, we want to start issuing our own money right on chain." Well, if they do that, you now have two money systems. How long is it going to take people to figure out which one they prefer better? Probably not going to take very long. It's going to be fairly instantaneous, because one of them is asset backed and the other is vaporware, nothing.
Yeah.
And so people are going to figure that out really fast. But I think you have to have a period of time where you have both exist, so people can have a period of transition. Because if you just cut one off, it's too rough of a transition. But if you can have both and give options, people will naturally migrate onto the new one, and eventually Fed just goes bye-bye.
Thank you. I just want to comment on the not so subtle point about the central bank digital currency and the modus operandi of the central banks. They control our money now and do all the things we know they do with it. And they want to basically mirror that in the digital world, and that's central bank digital currency. The same control mechanisms and manipulative things that cost us money, they're going to deploy them same way. Instead of paper, it's a central bank digital currency. Any closing comments, Mel, on the CBDC?
Yeah, absolutely. Do I have some closing comments? Absolutely. I can tell you that General Flynn and I did not meet under the best of circumstances. Him and Clay Clark were in front of the room talking to about 180 or 200 podcasters, and they were talking how, Klaus Schwab and Wari and all these guys are going to take over the world with the central bank digital currency. Donald Trump was powerless, etc. And I stood up and I said, "Sir, with all due respect, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Not those words are a little more harsh." And the whole entire room literally stood quiet. They realized, holy moly, who the hell is this guy, right? And bottom line is that I told him that these asset classes work perfectly well peer to peer. There's no need for another bridge on the blockchain called the central bank digital currency. It's like, what? The bank's going to come to my house and say, well, if I want to buy your home, your jet ski, your pickup truck, whatever, I could send the money directly to your wallet. The bank cannot come and enslave me. See, we're dealing with sociopaths and psychopaths who have been enslaving humanity forever. And now the party is over. This thing is coming to a abrupt ending. And they don't like the fact that they're losing control. They're so drunk on their power that they can't see straight. They thought that they were going to add another central bank digital currency and tell us when we could buy steaks, when we could use our steak money to buy popcorn or vice versa, and have complete total control over humanity and bring in a Chinese communist system to the United States. And they failed miserably thanks to our Second Amendment. Okay? So, and Donald Trump knows that better than anybody. Donald Trump's a very smart guy. I voted for him. I've been following him since The Apprentice. If you study entrepreneurship, he's one of the greats. And so is Grant Cardone, and so are some of the other people out there. Look, when people understand, I got to tell the story for whatever it's worth. You realize that General Flynn did not understand the acronym peer-to-peer. He had no idea what peer-to-peer meant. I said, that means that I could pay you directly and send the money to your wallet. He goes, young man, I'm sorry to tell you, but I never heard of this peer-to-peer in front of an audience of 200 people. So, look, the house of cards is coming down. We know how this game is going to be, how it's going to play out. We're in central casting. We can read the tea leaves clearly, and we can see the future clearly. It's just a matter now of a waiting game as the big titans who think they run the world get their shorts untangled. Mm-hmm. And it's the banking system. That's what we're waiting for this reevaluation, nothing more.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you, Mel. I'm going to wrap up this broadcast with, it's really, I guess, a two-part question, but it's really all bundled up. Here, and going back to Rob, then we'll close out with Mel. Let's discuss the Clarity Act, why that's so important, and what happens if that bill does not pass. It sounds to me like it has to pass. And if it doesn't pass, what is the plan B? Actually, we'll leave that as a standalone question. Then I'll come back. I've got a final question that's very important. Take it away, Rob.
Sure. The Clarity Act is the first formal body of legislation to exist in a digital ledger technology world. We don't have any laws right now. We're kind of wild, wild west. We've got money transmitter licenses. We've got state regulatory bodies. We've got a just judicial ruling that says XRP is not a security. It's a commodity after the lawsuit with Ripple and the founders. But we don't have a body of law that, here's the key word, that is board defensible. There's not black and white legislation in the United States that allows a CFO, a CEO, a board of directors, a compliance officer start to move and trade internationally or domestically trillions and trillions of dollars Because the laws aren't on the books yet. We haven't gotten anything clarified. We haven't passed any legislation. It's a patchwork. It's hodgepodge. So clarity is going to be, we are going to be probably one of the very last nations on earth to pass Clarity Act legislation that then allows the Fortune 1000, the Fortune 2000 companies to lock, stock, and barrel, pin their ears back, and begin full adoption and full transition onto the blockchain. Okay. It would be best if we had legislation passed, John, but the SEC chairman has just come out in the last day or two and said, look, one way or the other, we would like to have this legislation codified and formal because it's forever until the law is changed. However, if we don't get this passed, the SEC and the CFTC have already divided what's a commodity, what's a security, whose rules are going to apply, and they're going to implement regulatory control over this new ecosystem with or without laws being passed. So they've kind of basically said to the Senate, checkmate. One way or the other, we're going to have rules of the road so adoption can take place. And the Clarity Act makes everything legal, everything lawful, everything board defensible, everything can be adjudicated in a court of law. There is absolute black and white credibility. China can look at it, Japan can look at it, Mexico can look at it, Venezuela, South Africa, everybody can see our laws. And our Clarity Act legislation will be very copacetic and very much intertwined and synergistic with the body of regulatory approval, if you will, Clarity Act provisions in all the other nations. Because it won't be exactly the same, but there will be an interoperability, almost an ISO-like equivalent of the statutes in all the different countries. Because when you start going point to point, person to person, and entity to entity among 5, 6, 7, 8 billion people, and you're transferring value and property and title and money and currencies, wallet to wallet, point to point, person to person, times 6 or 7 billion people, there needs to be some level of uniformity or there's going to be chaos. So Clarity Act is the starter's pistol for the new era monetary system that gives absolute legal, lawful clarity for the horses to leave the barn and the trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars to begin migrating onto the blockchain.
Thank you very much. Will, Barney, your comments on the subject here. Clarity Act.
Well, it was interesting. Yesterday in our global update, we shared the comments from the SEC chairman, Paul Atkins, on that subject. And it's here's the situation. Russia has passed Clarity Act legislation. Japan has passed Clarity Act legislation. We're the ones behind. And what Paul Atkins is saying is we're not going to take the biggest, most amazing stock market in the world and be left behind by everybody else because Congress can't act. We're going to move forward regardless, right? So now Congress is placed in a situation where they've got to get it done or else, right? The other thing that we have to realize is, does it matter? And this is just a question I have. Does it matter to pass Clarity Act legislation in a body of Congress that is corporate? Or can we just kick the boot them all out of there, restore the republic, and take care of it? Okay. Mm-hmm. So is some of this that we're watching narrative? I think some of this is, look, let's say, because they have to pass this within the next 10 days. Okay. They have 10 days or else they're going on vacation. If the United States sees Congress not pass this, And the only thing they can do is go on vacation on time, but they can't pass any legislation. I think the people are going to be pretty much ready for the military to come in and just, boot in the ass and they're gone. Okay.
Right.
It's good.
Mhm.
People are going to be very ready, right? If that happens, is that going to happen? I don't know, but Clarity Act legislation must be done in every country. The train's already left the station. We either get on top of it and be a leader, remain a leader around the world, not only in blockchain, but in the stock markets. And we've had the best. Let's retain that, or we're left behind. I don't think this administration's interested in being left behind by any stretch. So they're gonna get it done one way or the other. Congress, if you're listening, you better get your act together, and the Senate needs to get something done.
I want to comment on that. You've invoked the military. You've invoked the corruption on both sides of the aisle, particularly one aisle, but really both. And could it be, and you invoked, the 1871 dying bankrupt corp versus the restoration of our constitutional republic. And this is a great, once Mel comments, a great segue to my final question. But before we get there, could it be the way the president has talked about declaring a state of national emergency specific to elections? He can do that. Could he say this is a national security issue on the currency? Not getting the Clarity Act passed. Could he, through a stroke of a pen, do that in lieu of more drastic measures? Any comments, Will or Rob, before we go to Mel?
He has the executive authority.
Yes, he does. Look,
Okay.
national economic policy is national defense policy. Okay. If we do not have a functioning financial system that interoperates with the rest of the world, it puts our nation at risk. It puts our ability to fund our military at risk. In my opinion, the XRP ledger and digital infrastructure and architecture is considered a SIFI, a significantly important financial infrastructure, which is part of national defense. And if we don't have it, he can order it to come into play, especially if it makes us unable to protect ourselves. So financial and economic policy is national policy. And as the commander in chief, he can create executive orders or declare a state of emergency and do certain things because, he's got to protect. His oath is to uphold the Constitution, not to make the bankers happy. His first oath is our.
What Will was alluding to before, I'll comment on it, and that is the optics of this. We have a central casting world. We've got unique ways of exposing who's who and what's what, and this may very well be in that camp too by not passing the Clarity Act. And you've both answered my question in terms of there are plan Bs, not just one, but perhaps two. And I will summarize it by simply saying, folks, it's going to happen. Nothing can stop what's coming. Mel, your comment on the Clarity Act.
Well, John, there's 3 specific countries that have had probably the most organized Clarity Act. 3 of the smallest countries in the world: Luxembourg, Switzerland, and Singapore. They have a Clarity Act. As a matter of fact, Singapore has had one of the best. And the only thing we should have done is study those 3, take the best attributes of those 3, tweak them to our liking, put it together with some of our own ingenuity, and voila, it could have been done 4 years ago.
Yep.
That's how long. That's how long Singapore has had it. That's how long Switzerland has had it. That's how long Luxembourg has had it. Japan is in that mix, etc. So I always go back to the same thing because I am a conspiracy analyst on steroids. And I think there is a well thought out methodical plan in this country to make sure that they shake out all the weak hands. Some of us get stronger, like, the Rob Cunninghams and the Barneys of the world. We figure out a way to bring in more cash flow. And at the end, the only thing you're going to do is make us a lot richer than we would have been if you would have passed the Clarity Act, and we would have got rich 2 or 3 years ago when we should have gotten rich. And we could have, hung up our cleats and maybe enjoyed the fruits of our own labor and walked some of the beautiful beaches of the earth, etc. But because our criminal Congress and our criminal senators and our criminal political infrastructure is at the helm, and they are moving heaven and earth and mountains. Out of all, 28,000 tokens, XRP is the only one that gets the lawsuit. That's the one you want to pay attention to, But this Clarity Act, if it doesn't get passed, John, this year, definitely look at summer of next year. And if it doesn't get passed in the summer of next year, we're going to 2030. There's no question about it. And that's how this movie is going to end. So hunker down, get ready, figure out a way to stay in positive cash flow. If you follow me, we go teach you how to do that. And the bottom line becomes that we'll teach you how to accumulate more of the chosen one, the XRP, the XLMs, the ISOs. And the end result, if you follow the people that are going in the right direction, is that you will get richer. Yes, is it stressful? Absolutely. Will it cause a lot of sleepless nights? Absolutely. But that's the price of entrepreneurship. There's no rule book for what we do.
Well, thank you, Mel. Great points. I appreciate it. All right, my final question. Let me begin by throwing a few pieces at the board. We clearly have the end of the Federal Reserve central bank system and the IRS itself, unconstitutional, illegal, frauds and Ponzi schemes. We have all of this pretty much being neutered, really since 2019, as I can tabulate President Trump's first move against that. And we see everything that's being revealed to us one way or the other from this present administration. So it would be fair to state that the end of the Federal Reserve, the Federal Reserve's note, them controlling and issuing the value of our currency, creating booms and busts at will, funding both sides of every war and laughing all the way to the bank that they are at the expense of the people of the world, particularly us. All of that is coming to an end. That is clear. All right, so it's clear to me that we're at war. We're at war with a lot of entities, but we're at war with the banksters, and we've discussed the central bank digital currency. He who controls the money, I would also say the information and the natural resources, controls the world. But this is a money discussion, so we're at war with the banksters. Captain Rob, what if you're on their side of the aisle? What are your moves right now against the massive threat and exposure of what they've been doing to this world for 113, 115 years, quite frankly, probably longer than that? What if you're on their side, you're sitting in their skiff and you're going up against Trump, truth, and God. What's your move?
2 moves: get rid of Trump, or 3 moves: start World War III or steal the midterm elections. They think that, again, it's petty, it's vain. I don't think it's going to end the way that they think it will end. But this is a cult or a cartel that believes in the ends justify the means. Obviously, this is a group of people that don't care about humanity or human lives. It's taken as long as it's taken since Trump came down the escalator in 2015. The 2 conflicting objectives have been: move as fast as you possibly can to transition away from the central bank cartel while minimal loss of life. Avoid World War III and move as fast as you can. So those are oppositional tensions, if you will. You've got to take away the monopoly and the punch bowl of the lunatics and the principalities of darkness that have kept humanity enslaved. The same group of entities that nailed Jesus to a cross have been controlling our lives and our decisions and our wars and our peace and our safety for thousands of years. So if we're going to get out of that cartel system, we have to do it logically. We have to be at war. The most powerful weapon in warfare is deception. So now you've got this white hat, black hat, deception, media narrative, who's on first, what's on second, look over here, don't look over here. But both sides have to use deception, okay? And deception's better than a lot of people losing their lives in a hot World War III. So that is what has been happening in the last 9-10 years since President Trump came down the escalator, recruited to come down the escalator and help take the head off of Goliath, which is also known as the creature from Jekyll Island. Most people don't realize how much code, how much messaging, how much standing up an alternate media to compete with the fake media, stand up an alternate monetary system to replace the cartel's monetary system, to level the world's playing field and help every nation detox themselves from this Federal Reserve debt note and buy gold and get their houses in order and create sound money in all of their nations and get their infrastructure in place so that all nations can be constitutional republics with individual sovereignty within their borders. He created a board of peace and is defunding NATO and getting out of the United Nations and getting out of the World Health Organization and has 80 or 90 nations in the board of peace. The world is going to become, in a matter of months, if not a year, it's going to be much more profitable to stay productive, friendly, competitive, creative, and building and innovating than it will ever be to go to war with one another. All wars are bankers' wars. In the old fiat currency world where there were central bankers, their number one most profitable activity was war. They got to lend money to every participant in the war, 5, 10, 15, 20 nations, charge interest for 30 years, and those nations put the interest tab on we the people. The next new business model will not be war. There will not be centralization. There will not be this incentivized military industrial complex so that these wretched bankers can make money due to warfare. There's going to be a level playing field that's transparent and accountable. Mutual consent is going to allow nations the world over to do business with one another if it's in their best interest to do so. So war is no longer going to become the profit motive when we get rid of central bankers. And no one alive today has lived in a world like that. Most people have no idea that that's even possible, or that this transition has been taking place in a silent, behind the scenes military transition from being a captured corporate entity known as the United States of America, Inc., and returning us back to a constitutional republic. Most people have no idea that that's been going on for, 10 plus years. So.
Thank you. Brilliant analysis. I agree completely from top to bottom. So well said. Thank you, Captain Rob. I want to add one thing. We'll go to Will and Mel. Is recruited Donald J. Trump, our Commander-in-Chief and President of the United States, the constitutional republic as it's returned, was recruited by the generals and admirals, anointed by our Creator, put in office 3 times. Thank you, Derek Johnson, -45-47 rather. And coming to a theater near you, 4th term 2028. No accident, nothing can stop what's coming. And I think there's your evidence. If one has faith, trust in our Creator, God doesn't make mistakes. This is His country. Our founding fathers were divinely inspired to put it here. Per Ben Franklin, it's a republic if you can keep it. We lost it on our watch, and now We're putting it back together on our watch. And God, the pecking order, in my opinion, is God, the military, the white hats, Trump, and we the people. We're putting this nation back on track. And to your point, Rob, following suit in other nations around this world. And this madness will come to an end pretty soon. I never thought I'd see it in my lifetime. Will, Barney, your comments on the subject at hand.
I think Rob was right about the areas that they're going to go after. And look how many times they've tried to take Donald Trump out. So they keep trying. Okay. So assassination still isn't off the table. However, why are we in Iran? We're in Iran because Donald Trump is removing World War III off the table.
Yes.
Notice when we started into the Iran thing, how they started shooting missiles at everybody else.
Yeah.
And the
They
Lloyds
thought
of London decided to
They
cancel.
thought they could start World War III, and all they did is unite everybody against them.
And
I
Will,
mean,
define,
Donald Trump has
Will,
outmaneuvered them.
Will, define who they is for the public, for the viewer. In your opinion, who is the they that we're really fighting in the Strait of Hormuz?
Oh, well, hey, that's a good point. I'm glad you asked that, because most people don't understand that. It isn't the IRGC, by the way.
Correct.
It's who funds the IRGC. Who's
Correct.
funding the IRGC? Well, you can find that paper trail all the way back to City of London. Why do you think they don't want blockchain transparency? Because they've been funding all kinds of crap everywhere. And when you put that in a glass house where everybody sees what you're doing, you're toast. They don't want this to be, they like the opaque world that they live in, where they do all this money laundering and everything behind the scenes, manipulate. If you look at it, the same people are behind Iran, North Korea, Cuba, Venezuela, cartels of Mexico. It's all the same.
Yes.
It's all the same.
MI6,
And
CIA, CCP,
Yeah.
they're all connected.
Yep. All 100%. All of those. Now, what they didn't expect was that Donald Trump would get into office, seize control of the military of the U.S. because they had control of it. Donald Trump takes control of the military. And what has he done 18 months ago? He put the guy that was the most vocal opponent to the corruption and deceit of the CIA in charge of the CIA. John Rapp. John goes silent. He says nothing. But what has he done in the last 18 months? He's utilized all of their resources to get all of the intelligence information. That's how we took down Venezuela. That's how we know all the targets of Iran. It's all being used against them now. Their own intelligence agencies are now being used to defeat them. And they are in a panic, massive panic, because they don't have control of the big bad military, and they don't have control of the intelligence anymore. This is going to get dicey over the next few months, because they're going to just throw everything at the wall now. I mean, it's kind of, they're kind of out of options. So just throw anything and everything out there. It's going to get a little crazy. But all it is just the dying kicks of an animal that should have been taken out a long time ago. I mean, really.
Without question.
And I think that we're watching that come to an end.
Thank you, Will. Quick follow-up. We'll go to Mel's closing comments on this smoking gun topic, the real issue of the day. Everything we discussed only in the prior segments of the show only exist because of this corruption that's getting redirected and straightened out. So I have a quick question for you, Will. Paint a picture. One of the narratives that I've taken away from this, and I've thought about it long before this broadcast, but this broadcast brought it home with all three of you, that there's no need for brick and mortar banks. As we move forward, my question to you, Will, is paint a picture for us, say 5 years from now. Will there be banks?
What's going to happen?
Will there be buildings?
The banks are trying to stay relevant. Last July, just over a year ago now, on the 14th of July, all banks in America had to go compliant with ISO 20022. And And the Federal Reserve announced it right on their website. Everyone was compliant on that day. Okay. This is a desperation move because if they can't use blockchain that we're all moving to, their lifespan is even shorter than ever, right? In other words, like instantly done. So what's going to happen is you're going to have banks that are offering, checking accounts, savings accounts, those basic services. That's going to start going away really fast. They're going to start losing those customers at an epic level. The only banks that are going to survive, go out 5 to 10 years from now, I'll bet you 80% of the banks are gone. Literally 80% will be gone. And those that are left are going to be the ones that have like metals vaults or wealth management service or something else to stay relevant because they can't do it off of checking and savings anymore. That's going to be gone. It's going to be off the table. They're going to have something else to entice you to come walk through their door. But as people do, like Rob and Mel have said, is they take control of their life and they start figuring out how to be their own bank, right? Be their own banker, how to make their money grow by loaning it out and doing these smart contracts. Even the wealth managers are going to be all dried up. They're going to be like, who needs you? You're promising me 7 or 8%. Man, I'm used to earning 12 to 15 now. Forget you guys, right? It's just going to be a completely different world. And this plays into the humanitarian space of which we live. So, we're working all on humanitarian projects. Let's get them launched. Let's get them done. Do you know what the biggest issue is that we have? And I had a conversation just within the last week, and I won't say who it was because I can't, but it's an organization that's in the business of clean water. Okay. I'll just put it that way. So they want clean water to go everywhere, whole world over. Okay. They have some money. They want to launch some projects in these various countries. They can't get the money there. They have tried multiple times and it gets stuck and they end up having to pull it back halfway through the process, 10, 15, 20 days into a process. They can't get it to where it needs to go. They said, what do we do? I said, you got to go blockchain. What do you mean? You send a stablecoin. You can have it there in 10 seconds. What? Fighting with this crazy system, where the current bank system is actually designed to be sticky and it's designed to steal from you. The slower that money moves, the more hands in the cookie jar. And when you're trying to move it internationally, more hands in the cookie jar. And every bank wants 2 days with it before they send it on, right? 2 weeks go by and you're like, why can't I get money there? This is crazy. And then you find out, wait, I can send a stable coin. They can have a stable coin like right now? Really? Everything is shifting. It's moving dramatically and it has to go digital. We can't even rebuild the world until we do this. We can't fix all these problems that we've got, like water, shelter, food, everything else. We can't fix them until we fix this financial system because we need the ability to get money to projects on the ground and make a difference and change that. And that's what this system does. That's what provides it. So bring on the Clarity Act. Let's get moving. Time's a wasted. That's how we feel about it.
Thank you, Will. Thank you, Will. The bread and butter and maybe the checking and savings accounts of the masses of us. And as you stated, moving forward, that goes away. After all, who wants to be subject to a Federal Reserve note as you're holding or a central bank digital currency as you're holding in a brick and mortar system that's designed, as you stated, to take you to the cleaners? The answer is going to be very few people. And so it is a dead and dying system. And thank goodness for that. Mel, would you like to comment on these closing big picture here that we're all
Man,
over the
I
map
wish
on? Yes.
I wish we could go for another 4 hours. That's there's so much to talk about, John. It really is.
Yes.
I mean, we could
Yeah.
stay here for maybe 10 hours and not get all the conversation out. Donald Trump was asked by the generals to become president because there's a massive global reset, and I don't think there's anybody that is qualified for this job except the anointed one was being guided by God. When he come down the escalator, there was a sign behind them that clearly read currency exchange. And for the people who have eyes to see and ears to hear, we understand the breadcrumbs emphatically. The outfits that Melania wears are military commands, specific colors. When one day she came out looking like the Joker with all this, as a matter of fact, 107, I think bought 2 of those dresses, not one.
It would be one.
I think I was
It would
able
be
to
one.
locate. Yeah, I think I was able to locate one of those 2 for him. But the reality is that, look, I want to sort of tie in what you said earlier. And I think the most important question
Mhm.
you asked was, why are they mining Bitcoin, the Trumps? And the best way
Mhm.
I think I can answer that, because I think it's important, is that they are playing chess. They're playing 17D chess. And as a matter of fact, my license plate starts with 17D, and I didn't order it that way, believe it or not. But needless to
Wow.
say, I could tell you that him and Brad Garlinghouse, meaning Mr. Trump, hang out on a regular basis. I'm talking about the son, Eric. I mean,
Mhm.
one day he almost slipped on while he was talking to PBD, Patrick Bet David, and he had to bite his tongue literally about Brad Garlinghouse. And I caught it. And I immediately segued that little piece and I put it in my Telegram group and like, Mel, you're a genius. And everybody agreed, unanimous. And so is it possible that they're mining the Bitcoin and as quickly as they're mining it, they're parlaying it over into XRP? And at some point, they're going to sell that mining operation to Michael Saylor and watch the cabal completely hang themselves.
We'll see.
Wouldn't that be
Nice theory.
an ending to the movie?
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Huh?
Or put the Bitcoin they mine in the sovereign wealth fund for the benefit of all Americans, or
Yeah.
give the
The only
Bitcoin
reason
to the
I think the only
cartel to
reason
pay out
why
part of their debt.
Yeah, I think the only reason why a Bitcoin survives as a store of value, and I think you guys can weigh in on this, I think only one reason is because the governments of the world have a black belt, 10th degree black belt on Ponzi schemes, and they're going to allow it to exist. Other than that, it really has no use value. Zero. I mean, look, we're having this conversation. Okay, we have gold inside these computers. We have silver inside these computers. Gold and silver, the physical asset, has a utility. It allows this conversation to take place. How does digital gold do anything? Can we replace the gold in this computer and this computer conversation continue? The answer is no.
Correct.
So we have to come to terms at some
Absolutely.
point. Are they going to pull the plug or are they going to allow it to continue? I don't know. I think Iran had to happen. Look, our presidents prior to Trump kicked the can down the road and they left this can for Donald Trump. Donald Trump knows that there cannot be a reset without taking care of Iran. Venezuela, we took care of. I think, Cuba is going to be a slam dunk. It's going to be like, right? No problem. They're falling anyway. It's going to be easier than Venezuela. Obviously, Iran is putting up a little bit of a fight. But there's also one other piece of the puzzle here that we're waiting for, and that is Taiwan. Taiwan is definitely going to be something to be talked about in the future because they have to be part of this reset as well. So do we allow China to take Taiwan and we say, okay, we'll take Venezuela, you take Taiwan, we'll take Cuba, and we're going to divvy up the entire planet in segments? And are we bringing in potentially, 7 kings? It looks like Donald Trump wants to take over Greenland. He wants to take over Central and South America, and there's going to be the Americas. Is it possible that China takes another piece and Russia takes another piece, and we're moving into something that we don't really recognize? There's a possibility of that. I really believe that there's a strong possibility of this. I don't think that kingdoms, the way we used to have them, are beneficial. They might have to be rethunk, if that's even a word. If it isn't, it is now. But I think that there's a lot of pieces on the chessboard that it doesn't matter how you diagnose them, they're a little bit hard to read. But we're definitely living in the most interesting times. The movie is very, very entertaining, to say the least. But how do you guys think, for example, a Taiwan plays out in this whole thing? I'm curious.
Well, if you look at 5,000 years of history of the Chinese Empire, Taiwan's always been part of it. It's going to go back. I think there's an agreement between Trump and Xi. I think there's an agreement to hold off on Taiwan long enough that all these new chip plants in Arizona can come online and we don't need it. I think they've got an agreement worked out there because we need the chips, right? If we get these, and TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor, just announced last week another $100 billion investment into 2-nanometer process in Arizona, a whole nother plant they're going to build. What that means is they will have 4 plants in Arizona with an output that exceeds probably almost double what they do in Taiwan. Trump wants that to come online, and then he'll be like, all right, let's work a deal, Xi. I got you. Right? But he doesn't want to do that until we have capability onshore to get that done. And I think they've got an agreement on it.
And if I can add to that.
Yeah, the question is, how long is it going to take? Is it going to be another delay of the reset because now we're going into Taiwan? How are they just going to say, okay, we give up, our hands are up, and they're going to do a Maduro, which would be nice. Then we could take care of it rather quickly and sign the paperwork and get it over with. But the bottom line becomes, hey, what if they put up a fight? What if they turn out to be another, Iran, and they put up a hefty fight against China?
Let me.
We have them by the short and curlies over oil already, so I doubt that can happen. Go ahead, Rob.
I hope you're right.
And let me just talk about this, guys. Draining the swamp. It's not just Washington D.C. It's the world reserve currency swamp. The whole world is a swamp that is financed and funded by this Ponzi scheme and counterfeit currency that's not money, it's just a fiction. Okay? Will brought up the point, 5,000 years, the Taiwan and the People's Republic of China have been lockstep together. The turd in the punch bowl is this thing called the CCP. The CCP is this NGO like foreign poison pill, just like Washington, D.C. and the District of Columbia is a poison pill. Or if you really want to follow the money, it's City of London, Bank of England, but City of London, MI6, CIA to CCP, CCP and Maduro, the socialist in Cuba. Follow the money. You crimp the money supply into the CCP. Who is then the People's Republic of China and Taiwan don't want to go to war with each other. The CCP is the one that keeps us at the threat of war. Oh my God, nuclear destruction anytime. Just as the City of London funds the IRGC for 47 years and they point missiles at 11 of their neighbors in the Middle East, how do you activate the Abraham Accords, level the playing field, and have Jews and Christians and Muslims all interoperate together in the Middle East as long as you've got the City of London funding the IRGC that's throwing missiles at everybody's backyard? You get rid of the funding source, the IRGC can't do its thing. Look at what happened when we got rid of the CIA. They could no longer fund 55,000 NGOs via USAID. Within a year, they stopped funding 55,000 NGOs via the USAID, and 7 nations in the Western Hemisphere went from left to right. The elections changed like that when they took away their funding source. So my point being is, when we cut off the fuel supply, the Ponzi scheme, cartels, counterfeit money, these rogue operators that are trying to start wars all over the world are out of money. They can't operate because their funding source is done. That's where we are.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And they can't just start up on the blockchain and try to just move it another way. because they'll be
So
found
we
out.
take
It's
we take
transparent.
Yeah,
Greenland.
they, they cannot create fiat stablecoins. That's like,
Yeah.
Right.
So
you
it
can't
looks
do that.
like,
There has to
yeah,
be a one-to-one relationship, you know?
yeah. It doesn't look like we're only having a reset. I think we're having a restructure of turf. I think the United States will take Greenland at one point. I believe we'll take Venezuela. I believe we take Cuba pretty quickly, and I do believe Russia is going to take Ukraine when it's all said and
Parts
done.
of it, at least. Yeah. Which,
So this is a turf war. It's a reset, a restructuring of turf. It's a restructuring of land. It's to return the land to the rightful owners to begin with. Okay, and we're listen. We're in for a pretty big quagmire. We're still not out of the woods.
And
This thing could drag on
it even
for a little
moves.
longer.
You're not wrong, Mel, but it moves even beyond the Western Hemisphere. I've had conversations with people in Australia and New Zealand, particularly. Australia, do you know what they tell me is the Chinese are already invading in their manufacturing space and in their industrial space. They tell me our option is we either join the U.S. or we can't fight this big behemoth called China because they will take us over.
There's one fix.
So that comes up as well, right?
Yeah, there's one fix. You know what that fix is? Universal basic income. When the universal basic income comes by, and all the illegal people who are in Italy and the UK and New York and all over the world, and they go to their local government office in that country and say, hey, I'm here illegally. My name is Mohammed, whatever, right? Okay? I'm here illegally. I'm here to collect my universal basic income. They're going to say, yes, you can, but you have to go back to your country of origin in order to collect. And we're going to take out the trash efficiently, and then we're going to close the borders, and it's over. And we're going to start from a clean slate from that point forward.
Folks, we're going to wrap up this broadcast because, to Mel's point, we could go on for hours now that I've gotten past the crypto for dummies aspect and we're going for the jugular. But what I'd like to do is, Mel, why don't you tell everybody the best place, let's go full screen so his lower thirds are there. What's the best place for people to connect up with you, follow you and your work beyond this
sure.
broadcast?
I have several channels. Yeah, I have several channels. I have about 8 different platforms. I actually have close to 250,000 people that follow me worldwide. My main channel on YouTube is just put in Mel Carmine. You'll see the guy with the big chair. That channel's got about 54,500. They've been keeping me there because I'm one of those guys that talks a little bit too much, so I'm extremely censored. And I'm also on. If you go to actually QFS1776.com, all of my social media, most of it is linked up at the top. All the links are at the top on the very landing page, and you can just click on each one, and we'll take you directly there. And then staying alive, if you happen to be in Cape Canaveral, the body does want to charge. We're like batteries. We're made out of a cellular structure of 33 trillion cells. And if you ever in Cape Canaveral, pull the body over, sleep over a night or two, you'll thank me in the morning because your body will have a way of telling you that it feels a lot better.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Mel. It's been nice having you here and contributing to a very important conversation. Folks, we are in the midst of a, how could we say, a global systemic reset on pretty much every front that matters for the human race. And we have the momentum on our side. There's no question about it, but we've got a lot to get through. Will Barney, talk with us about enochgs.com, best way for people to follow you and the work you're doing.
Yeah, so what we're doing is we're building out systems to launch humanitarian projects around the world. It's business software and hardware systems to allow projects to get up and going very quickly and to have the proper management so that there is reporting that's required on the humanitarian space so everybody stays compliant with the system. So that's what we're doing, and we're building. Go to Enoch GS, it's Enoch Global Services. enochgs.com, and there's a little bit of information on there. We are going to be upgrading the website over the next month, so there'll be some changes coming. But there is some information there. You can learn a little bit about us. I do some minimal amount because I don't have much time other than that. I do some consulting one-on-one, and there is a calendar on our homepage. If you go down to the bottom, there's a calendar there. If you want to get some time with me, you can book one of those appointments. So thank you, John.
Thank you. And Will, you're welcome. Thank you, Will. And one last thing, you've recently launched a YouTube channel. Is that correct? If so, direct people to follow your broadcasts.
If you go to YouTube, just search Enoch Global Services, all spelled out, and you'll see us there. We're also on X.com and Truth Social and Rumble as well. So if you go to Enoch GS,
Excellent.
click on the contact page, and you will see each of those various links where you can follow us.
Great. Thank you, Will, Barney. Captain Rob, best way for people to connect up with you and your work. And you also might want to mention the documentary that you were, among many others, featured in with Kiyosaki and Geo Griffin and many others.
Yeah, well, thank you again for tonight, and Mel and Will. This has been a pleasure. This is something that I hope, if you're still listening to us, that you'll watch this, you'll share it with your loved ones, you'll really think about what we're saying here. We're all competent professionals. We've been around the block. We're not a bunch of kooky conspiracy theorists. We're accomplished businessmen, media professionals, military veterans, bankers, and we're not doing this just for our health. We're doing it because we know what time it is. From a historical standpoint, one of the honors of my life was to be in a movie called Money Disrupted. And basically, Money Disrupted is a 2-hour documentary. As you mentioned, it's got G. Edward Griffin, the author of The Creature from Jekyll Island. It's got Robert Kiyosaki. It's got Lynette Zhang. It's got Linda P. Jones. It's got Jake Claver. It's got a whole lot of people that can give the world the history from 1776 to 2026 about banking. Each decade and each period, what's happened, how do we get funded, how do we get started, what was the first bank, second bank, and third bank, how did the Federal Reserve come to be, what is money? This documentary is called Money Disrupted. It's available online for, I don't know, $10, $12, something like that. The website is fruitionproductions.com, or just Google Money Disrupted just on your favorite browser and you'll find it. If you really want to understand the history of central banking and how we got to where we are today, you won't get a finer cast of people. We've got Coach JV's on it, Jimmy Valley's on it, Molly Elmore is on it. There are so many professionals that have spent their lives over the last 5 or 10 years studying how we got to where we are and how things are changing. So that would be my best gift to anyone that's listening to this video. My personal website is kuwl.show, cool.show. You'll see that on the bottom of the screen, or just Google my name, Rob Cunningham. I spend a lot of time on X. I have a Substack and a YouTube channel, and I spend 50% of my time as guest on shows like yours, John. So my wife and I owned a national training development leadership company. We've been teachers. I've been an instructor in the Air Force, an instructor at Merrill Lynch, and own an instruction company. I want to empower people with knowledge, and the scripture says my people are destroyed for their lack of knowledge, and if we understand what the laws and the principles are, then we become nobody's fool. But if we're lost in a sea of ignorance, then the liars win because they're going to box our ears off. So the greatest way in the world for us to thrive and reign as kings and queens in this world is to humble ourselves, learn the laws and the principles and apply them. Otherwise, we get our asses kicked. It's that simple, and so my passion. my passion project is to just look. I won't be here nearly as long as my beautiful daughters will and their kids will, and I want this place to be a whole lot better than the first 64 years that I lived on it. I want it to be better for them. And bottom line is, John, we outnumber the assholes 500 to 1. They've just put us in a coma. They've put us to sleep. They've made us comfortably numb, chasing the bread and circuses, not knowing what the hell they're doing to us. And when we wake up, we outnumber them 500 to 1, and we get our world back. Not just America, but we get the world back from the cartel. So it's up to us if we want to make this a better place.
We've become comfortably numb as two lost souls living in a fishbowl year after year, and we are breaking out of that. And thank you, David Gilmour and company. But nice closing
John, one
comments,
last thing before
Captain
I go.
Rob. Sure.
Yeah, John, one last thing before I go. I forgot to promote my movie, Dear Mr. President, dearmrpresident.net. We have went out of our way to find the most simple, elementary pieces that we can glue together in a way that anybody can understand. And we've had almost 18,000 copies sold. We charge $5.89 for the movie, by the way. You know, that famous number. I lost track of how many people have called us, said, I've never used to understand the straw man. This movie brings it home. So I'm dyslexic myself. So I had to make a movie that was, dumb enough for Mel Carmine to understand. And when I achieved that, I knew it was ready for world consumption. And so dearmrpresident.net, go watch the movie and spread it around, because you're all worth $200 million, at least.
Well, thank you for that. I'm actually going to check that out, and if inspired, so to bring you on and discuss it, because that's an important topic, and we've covered it
Thank you.
in the past on broadcasts. You bet.
What's his name
I
had
want
me
to
on
close out.
recently? What's his name had me on recently? Russell Brand. I'm sure you know who he is.
Sure, of course.
He interviewed me
Excellent.
specifically about the movie.
Yeah, very good. I want to fail to ask this, and it's very important. It'll be a free-for-all. First person who dominates the mic answers the question, but it's very important. And I failed to mention it. Will and I have covered it before, but it's apropos and important for us to close out with this. A lot of people in the social media space are telling everybody, DM me, private message me, contact me. I'll get you set up in your QFS account. We can get you if you don't get there soon, you're going to lose all your money. We'll take everybody's comment. We'll go to Will Barney. Are we the people able to be in the QFS to that extent with our money yet? Or is that a scam?
There is no QFS available yet, folks. Don't be falling for the scams.
Thank you.
And if anybody sees me DMing somebody, it isn't me. Okay. I know there's,
Correct.
we have tried to pull all the fake guys off, but it's hard. There's a lot of trolls out there. So you don't let them scam you into pulling you into something thinking that it's coming from me. I don't do direct messages on social media. I don't have time for it. It's not coming from me. So please keep that in mind.
Yeah.
God Almighty.
We actually went as far. Yeah, we actually went as far as making it part of our intro in the beginning of every the podcast that I do. It's embedded in there to not fall for fake Mel Carmines. And I concur.
You.
First of all, you don't have to register your XRP for your XRP to be valid on a QFS. What you're doing, in essence, is you're taking your XRP and you're putting it into the thief's wallet, who he calls the Quantum Financial Systems wallet, and he's got your money. Once he's got your money, the last time I checked, thieves don't give refunds.
Absolutely. Captain Rob, close us out on that subject, please.
If there's one of me on Telegram, there's 85, and I don't have a Telegram account. Okay. I don't.
There you go.
I ain't got time to DM people. I'm not a money manager. I don't give advice. I don't tell people what to buy, or I don't do dates or rates. Please be careful. Understand there is a full-time cartel of thieves that are doing everything they can to deceive you, to get your passwords, to get you to transfer them some money, to maybe, if nothing else, just destroy our reputations by making us look like idiots by impersonating us.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
anybody that's a professional that's really trying to do the right thing and be honest and bring people up to speed does not have the time to be knocking on people's social media DMs and saying, let's do business together. It does not work that way, and it ain't us. Please be
Yeah.
careful.
Thank you.
You mean,
You
Rob, you
bet.
mean to tell me you got more clones than Kim Jong-un? Join
I
the
don't
club,
know.
brother.
I sure as hell don't have time to take out that bonger stick and knock all these what whack-a-mole. I ain't got time to do whack-a-mole. You can take out 7 and there's 9 new ones the next day. I can't do it.
Yeah.
I will concur on JMC Broadcasting. We have in the footnotes, show notes, etc., the same statement of being impersonated. It's not me. I don't make any such recommendations. So be careful, folks. I want to thank Captain Rob Cunningham, Will Barney, and Mel Carmine for your knowledge and sharing that with our viewers in this episode, which we could potentially title, certainly the subject matter evolved around Understanding Crypto and Related Matters 101. And I thank you very much for being here with us. And we'll look forward to seeing you back in the near future. Thank you very much. We'll sign you off. To our producer, let's
Thank
talk
you.
about JMC. Thank you all very much. Global Financial Reset. I'll be out of here in 60 seconds. I just want to bring to your attention, I believe it's 5-star on Amazon.com. This is a handbook. This is a guide. This is education. It's roll up your sleeves workbook. Global Financial Reset, Surviving and Thriving the Transition that we have laid out here in this broadcast. Here are the chapters. Number 1, and by the way, it's less than 100 pages. Number 1, orientation. Number 2, GOOTS, Goots, get out of the system. Number 3, financial advisors, word of caution, which also features in the book, the Financial Advisor Scorecard. Number 4, understanding precious metals, critically important. We didn't cover it in this episode. I'll be going over these matters with Bill Armour in the near future. Number 5, guaranteed income, particularly for those in retirement. Number 6, contributed by Josh Reed, blockchain and cryptocurrency. Number 7, healthy living. Number 8, preparedness. Number 9, faith. Number 10, action. Action changes things. And number 11, Wealth Coach Consult. I am available on a very limited basis to meet with you privately on a live Zoom call. It's Wealth Coach Consult. You visit wealthcoachuniversity.com. I can only do 8 appointments a month for a limited time. For those that would want to access me, or any way I'm able to assist you on any aspect of the operation that we are all a part of right now in the Global Financial Reset. So you can pick the book up at Amazon.com. You can follow my work for free at jmcbroadcasting.com. I want to thank our guests for their time and insights to a very important subject as we transition from tyranny to sovereignty. Thank you all. Stay safe, everyone, and may God be with you.
Since President Dwight D. Eisenhower, top secret files were created concerning off-world activity and visits to planet Earth. Undoubtedly, over the decades, these files have grown. Area 51 is commonly known. We've heard and seen images of UFOs, but not until now has this been validated and presented to the American people and to the world, as President Donald J. Trump released the first tranche of top-secret files. This is the beginning. There's much more to come. Join John Michael Chambers and guests on a new monthly panel, JMC Broadcast, Off-World with JMC. Premiere episode launches Thursday, June 18th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Subscribe for free by visiting jmcbroadcasting.com. and join us on this intriguing and challenging journey together, taking the Great Awakening to new and higher heights. Come travel through the portal with us. Where we go one, we go all.